Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 472. I'm the disc golf guy. Johnny's in Milwaukee. And we got a special in-studio guest. Shit's getting real tonight.
We have a guest? That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been kind of interesting, and full disclosure.
The East Coast kind of sucks. Not going to lie.
Yeah, it's been an addition. It feels like it's been tougher this year than other years. Obviously, most of the time, once an event wraps up, we frequently will then have a guest from the champion from that particular event. And this year, it's been extra tough. Obviously, there's been scheduling issues. Everybody's driving from next spot to next spot. We start very late, which I think is probably one of the number one challenges. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, unfortunately, I had reached out multiple times. Matteo was pretty much the number one suspect that everybody on the planet, I'm sure, wants to hear from. And the only excuse I'm going to take at this point from Matteo for not getting back to me and not joining us tonight, the only valid excuse would be he was out celebrating of epic proportions on Sunday or Monday and threw his phone in a river. That would be about the only thing that I would now make for an excuse. And the funny part about that is it's probably also the most likely. It's probably the most practical
his phone
of
could
what's
be
happened.
At the bottom of the pond. I mean, the Maple Hill Pond.
That's actually a really good point. It could also be there. So we will not have Matteo, but of course we're going to talk about what we saw from MVP Open this last week. We'll talk a little bit about what we're going to see for the U.S. Women's Championship taking place in Burlington, North Carolina. Of course, that's the major. And then we'll see how things go from there. But I think without further ado, we've got a three-time world champion, and I'm not including any kind of glow. I'm not including any kind of junior worlds, any kind of mini golf. We're talking about three-time world champ Nate Doss.
What up, T-Dog?
Welcome in, buddy.
I know we don't have Matteo, and I'm actually the most sad about that because I really wanted to talk to Matty. It's been so long since I've actually got to talk to him, but man, I mean, it was a great performance. Really?
Yeah, let's start there. So right off the bat, of course, crazy weekend, playoff event, people are shifting around, points mattered so much. We talked about points to death, so to speak, like every other update, there was a points update about things going on. But I want to start with Matty O and whether it's a story or an insight or just anything that you could give all of our listeners that might be a little more specific to you and Matteo throughout the previous couple of decades. An interaction, a battle, an event, a crazy travel story. Is there what jumps out at you?
The biggest thing that jumps out at me about Matteo, and I first met Matt in 2005. We played a few early rounds at the World Championship together, and then he ended up making the Final 9, and the Final 9 was Matteo, Barry Schultz, Ken Climo, and myself.
Damn.
And Matteo wore a Derek Jeter jersey. Now, you can go onto YouTube and find this Final 9. It was a good Final 9. It was great to have Kenny and Barry in the group. At the time, Barry was the defending champion, and Climo, of course, was searching for his 12th world title. And but here's what I'll say about Matteo. Now, of course, for me, I won the Worlds. It was a great – I'll never forget it. You handed me a beautiful gift from Discraft. But back to Matteo. He goes out wearing a Derek Jeter jersey. He's in 4th place. Now, this is a Final 9, so you can't go down. Best place to be in a Final 9. And we get to about the 4th hole of the Final 9, and it was this big, long par 5 that went down and left. Played down this huge hill, left along the water, and they start, I think it was Schwebby or somebody starts throwing money on the tee for a 3. It was like $50 to anybody who gets a 3. This is during the Final 9 of the World Championship.
Where $50 carried a lot more weight than it does right now.
I was like, $50?
What?
Come on, I could double my payout. Are you kidding me? And I'm kind of just sitting back, like just kind of laughing about the whole thing. I was just in my own world.
Are you at all annoyed?
No.
Okay.
My caddy at the time, Jim Hagen, out of California, and I also had Harold Hampton there, and Stevie was there. They're just like, ignore it, dude. It's fine. It's all good. And I actually did kind of laugh about it. So it goes $50, $100. I don't know if you can remember the number.
I don't remember what it got to.
It was a bigger number. Mm-hmm. It was like $500.
Yep.
Let's just say it's 500. It could be a lot more. Or less. I don't know. So I'm not playing this hole for 3. I'm playing it safe as can be, down the gut, playing it, keeping it out of bounds. There's OB all over the place. Matteo just goes for it. He kills this drive down the hill, goes way down left, gets way up there, blasts this shot all the way down this tight fairway with water on the right. Matteo gets the 3. And it was amazing. The crowd went wild. Matteo got a whole bunch of extra cash. And I'll never forget that because to this day, what did we just see just 2 days ago? Matteo performing under pressure with $18,000 on the line, by the way. Was it 18 or 16?
He got 18. He got 18.
18. Yeah. $18,000 on the line. He's on the tee of 11, no chance. Really. You think about it, he's on chase. He hasn't been playing well to that point. And he went on one of the best birdie runs that I can remember of all time in a final round.
Yeah.
To go on and take the win. And number 2, for me, and I think probably you and Johnny will agree, I have never once seen a lead card be out of it so early.
Oh, I don't believe it's ever. Yeah, I don't think it's ever been that way.
Yeah, and
like it was so.
Yeah,
and
that's
so fast.
partially. Well, and that's also partially due to the new era of disc golf because tee times have only really become as much of a thing in the Pro Tour days. For the most part, yes, we've had national tours. Of course, even though live scoring was always a different story back then, whatever. But yeah, certainly, there's so many times where golfers were out there, and if there was somebody making a push from a different card, you'd have no idea.
True.
That
goes way back.
But
I don't want to play the way back machine,
sure.
But if you look at let's just go to the start of the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
Yeah.
I have never won, and I
agree.
For me, it goes even farther back than that.
Yeah.
But for all of our fans at home, just to keep everything somewhat relevant, I've never seen a lead card be put under that much pressure that early, and B, be really counted out as they step to the tee of 15.
Yeah.
Matteo, the performance he put on, and there's a story that maybe you know more about where he didn't actually know the scores because Matteo's phone couldn't work. Now, maybe this is a problem.
This is a full tie-in.
Clearly.
Maybe this is all tied in, but we have heard. Go on.
So, to give you guys a perspective, Maple Hill, beautiful, amazing. It's in not the middle of nowhere because you're surrounded by a big city and all these other things, but it's like out in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. And the cell phone coverage is like, But what people don't realize is that those cameras that we're using, they take this much of the bandwidth and they leave everybody out there with this much. Mm-hmm. And we have problems with UDisc. You have all the fans on the course going, where's all the scores? Let's check our scores. Or they're live streaming to their buddies on FaceTime, and they're like front row on the 18th green. And so Matteo and his caddy couldn't get the scores.
Yeah, that's what we were hearing.
And it sounds to me like, was it Aaron Gossage who Matteo went and said, hey, what do I got to do? And Aaron's like, I think you got to lay it up. So
when you're talking to your competitor, the guy who just like 8 or 9 holes ago was looking like the favorite to win this. Like Aaron Gossage was on a run early on the front 9, and people were thinking like, oh, maybe Aaron's going to get his.
Yeah,
when you suddenly turn to your
card.
competitor and be like, hey, what do I got to do? And your competitor, I mean, it goes to show where we are at disc golf in general. Your competitor just says, oh yeah, no, dude, lay this up. You have to do that. This is yours. Yeah. And it wasn't a great layup, but he kind of missed that, missed the hot zone. He ended up right behind that tree on 18, but no big deal, obviously, with the step out.
I just think he probably didn't even really practice it.
No.
Matty's such an aggressive player, and I just don't think he practiced it. And it was something that I heard when they tapped in. That group immediately went into the scoring, building or whatever, that room. What's that called? They got a name for that?
Scorers shack.
No, but the scoring shed
on the property. Okay, either way. I thought, because the sap house is on the other side of the green.
Exactly, so I don't know.
Anywho, they go in there, and I heard Aaron Gossage said, I started it off, and you finished it up. And I thought that was really big of Aaron Gossage. I think Aaron's been on the edge so many times, he could have easily been a chip on his shoulder, a little bit pissed that it didn't go his way, and you could see the way Aaron's whole round finish with, those bogeys, and he ended up going birdie finish, but I don't know. I just thought that was big of Gossage, and then it was just a who's who of disc golf that came into that shack. This was the group, the chase card's still on 13 or 14 at this, or maybe like T of 15. And everybody's coming in giving Matteo a hug. That was cool.
Yeah, dare I ask both of you as to, and I don't, it's not just a popularity contest, but who's the next person to get a win where we'll even sniff that, even remotely that close of excitement?
I don't.
Who's the person that there's not going to be another one as big?
Not for a while.
I don't think at all. But
because Matteo's gone so long. Owen was the last one, I felt, because Owen was looking for that. She had taken second, just like Matteo, so many times.
Sure.
And on the FPO, obviously on the FPO side, where she won at D-Glow, which was awesome. She did it with MPO. I'm trying to think if there's anyone in FPO now that is beloved, but there's no one that's been playing quite like that. Maybe if Corver won another one, it could be like that. But that would, obviously we're stretching. But for MPO, I don't know.
I agree with you about that.
I don't know. Maybe Ben Calloway would be the next, because he's been grinding for, God, we've been hearing about Calloway for 10, 12 years, but I don't want to say he's new on tour, but he hasn't been touring as long.
Yeah, he's relatively,
he was always the awesome
the next
local.
Two big names, the next two biggest names that don't have wins that we know are coming are going to be Barella and Heimberg with a major specifically, but Barella in terms of an elite series at least. Those are, I feel like, two of the biggest names that are still looking for two of their bigger titles that feel inevitable. But yeah, I don't know who that next.
If I dig deep, now I do agree with you that I think if Juliana won an Elite Series event and or a major, I think historically, especially for people like us three, it would be huge. It would be like, oh my God, how is this even possible? And it would show her determination. But her personality wouldn't create that buzz.
Yeah,
right.
Correct.
There was a buzz on that green, and it was because of Matteo. And we have to give Matteo credit for just being so kind of aware and living in the moment. He wasn't really like off in the clouds. He was like enjoying it. If I think about somebody like a big name that I think would be kind of crazy, I think Brody Smith. I think if Brody Smith won an event like that,
sure,
I think there would be a hype around it because of where he started. And if he were to get that victory, I just think that would be like a big boom one.
The hype would be there,
huge.
But like you're saying, not necessarily the longevity. And then as the board,
I don't know if the competitors would be like swarming him like Matteo.
No. Yeah, okay. Comparing to the competitors,
but I think if
Double
G or
Yuli,
Double
for sure.
Double G or Yuli would need their major. They both have Elite Series.
Yeah, I didn't know we were talking about the other players.
I think it's just the general. Overall, I could see maybe like a Proctor as well would be, because he's been around for so long, but again, he's newer to the tour. This is like truly his second year full time on tour. I don't know what his relationship is with the other players like Matteo. I know he's well liked, but I don't know if he's beloved like Matteo has been. So,
yeah.
Matteo's
just such a character. He's just such a character, and every person on that field, everybody has had some little interaction with Matteo. There's almost nobody out there that hasn't. Be like, hey, have you ever talked to Matteo? No, I'm not. That doesn't exist.
Yeah. So awesome to see, and it's kind of crazy as I was just scrolling down, looking at various names to scroll down and see, a gentleman who just finished second at the Worlds on relatively different property and layouts and course configurations, but Anthony Barella finishing in a tie for 69th, essentially second to last. And then Jake Wolf, who we were just watching perform in Rochester and throwing all those wild. And again, this is as competitive of a field because we're dwindled down to 72. It's the playoffs. Everybody earned their spots. So somebody's got to take, last or near last, and it could be obviously a good player. But you're specifically to see someone who just 2 weeks ago finished second in the world, and then to see a Barella in a tie for 69th, that's got to be shocking to some.
And not to call anybody out, but I mean, look at that. Look at the bottom of the division right now versus almost a week or 2 weeks ago. Andrew Fish, who took like 5th place at the AFDO and is known for being a woods golfer. That's how competitive this is. Barella, like you said, Wolf, Jake Mon, Linus Carlson near the bottom, which is shocking.
Yeah.
But that's the level of competition that we're running into, especially at these events. You have to be a killer. It's kind of amazing some of the players that we still see up at the top year or event after event, but year after year as well.
Yeah, real quick, big shout out. I think it's worth mentioning and then some again. LeCastro turned 35. Happy birthday to him. But gets 2 aces.
Wow, seriously.
During this weekend. 2 aces this weekend. He aces 4 in round 1, and then later goes on to ace hole number 13, the downhill in round 4. Like
both of those are nasty or aces.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. 13
13's insane.
Is insane to get to the point.
The new pin twisted even more in there. Like,
and then I ace ran 13 years ago.
He doesn't even cash.
I ace ran 13 years ago, but it was a different pin placement, and it was ridiculous. It's just where it is now, not a chance. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's a big shout out though. 2 aces in one tournament. I mean, that's insane.
And then we follow that up, and if you were paying attention, you heard maybe us say it. Marweed, for the second time in the last month, Marweed gets an ace during a final round and doesn't get shot of the day. Of course, he aced hole number 7 back at Ledgestone, and then Calvin had aced hole number 10, and then Cole Redallen went on to win that event, so it was kind of overshadowed. Right. 7, arguably the easiest hole at Ledgestone. An ace is an ace, though. And then he goes in aces during the final round this weekend on hole number 8. And unfortunately still not shot of the day. But nonetheless, congrats to Marweed for that. And congrats, Marweed just proposed to his lady friend. And, she was out there this weekend.
Fiancé.
So she must have said yes. Well, at the time, she was lady friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she was on the bag, so she must have said yes.
Yeah, you'd
right?
Think.
Well, I mean, you're here anyway. Might as well, even if you say no.
Yeah. Imagine she says no, and he's like, yeah. I just want 4 rounds. Could you just get me through the playoffs?
I just want to keep this professional, Andrew. I'll still be your caddy, but we need a work relationship.
We're done.
That's right. We need a relationship.
Yeah. I just need you to sign this contract now. Now we're going to go to a contract. So anyway, congrats to them. That was new, and I don't even know if we mentioned it last week, so it's worth mentioning. Brian Earhart also proposed to Lindsay right after the press conference at the World Championships. Yeah. So congrats to them as well. So, yeah, lots of craziness going around. And then just real quick, before we move over to FPO action, this falls in line with everything I just said about the competitiveness. You have the likes of, when you look at who cashed, Brody looks like he took last cash. Holy cow, was there like a 6-way tie for last cash?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gavin Babcock, Kyle Klein, Casey White, Evan Scott, Aiden Scott, and Brody Smith all took tied for 25th. That should have been last cash spot.
Yep.
Albert Tom, Chris Dickerson, Andrew Presnell, Bradley Williams, Greg Barsby, Nico, Sampson, Coling, Schultz, so on and so forth. James Proctor, who's been Mr. Consistent this entire year, right up there like with the likes of Heimberg, just a few spots below him every weekend. Crazy to see all of those competitors and others not cash this weekend. It's wild out there.
Well, one of the things I was just kind of bumping through the rounds, 1 through 4. Matteo dominated the back 9 almost every round, except for I think round 2. Like, if you look at round 1, and if you look at the front and back, obviously we all know the front is where you get your birdies, the back is where you kind of maintain usually. You can pick up a few of them.
I think it's vice versa here.
At Maple Hill?
It's opposite here.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The scoring takes place in the back. Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
If you look at the scores,
I bet money on it.
If you look at the scores, there's more bogeys on the back 9.
Where's
Statmando when we need him?
If we really break it down, you think about some of the hardest holes on the course.
I'll say I'm looking at the top 5 to 10 players. So, but
right, yeah. One was nearly impossible to birdie this week. I bet on a hole 1 there was like 30 birdies for the weekend. I mean, that's 4 rounds, 72 guys going through. You have 20 birdies.
Yeah.
Fast forward, hole 5 is always weird, but we get birdies on that. Then you get to 6, 7, and 9. Those were 3 of the hardest holes on the course. When you get to the tee of 10, no matter where you are in your round, you're thinking I got a birdie 10, 11, and boy, they were smashing drives on 12. I think they had that big tailwind helping them get up and over the ridge. Those are all birdies, but then 13's a tough birdie, 14 is insane, 15's gettable, 16's gettable, and then, of course, 18's always the hardest hole. I think the 2 9s kind of balance out, but
I could
just
see that.
Looking at the final round, it does look like the back 9 was played better by the top in the back 9 this year.
Because I'm looking
what I'm seeing. But anyway,
because from everything I watched, you watched all these players start to fold in the back 9. Like from the broadcast, you watched Kelvin. Other than Matty, like Kelvin was on a tear when he was on his. When we were talking about his epic round, he gets the back 9, he folds. Simon and Eagle gets the back 9, fold. Like all these guys that just had rounds going for them, they all folded on the back 9. Like they just couldn't get through those 13 through 16.
I just got to say, Albert, Tom, and Chris Dickerson, who both barely missed cash, started their final round 5 for 5.
Which is insane.
Yes, that is nuts. Such a hard run, because even though we're talking about getting birdies, that is tough to do. Tom ends up going on to shoot 5 under for the round, so he kind of came up at that point. Dickerson, on the other hand, he went on to drop 14 spots and shot 3 over.
Oof. I don't feel like
he's 8 over for the final, 14 holes or something?
I don't feel like he traditionally plays well there, which is shocking to if it is true.
It is because he's such a wooded player.
Exactly.
I mean, he's so good in the woods.
So,
but he's so good everywhere.
That's just it.
This course gets under your skin, and you two know this.
Yeah.
You two know this. It gets under your skin almost more than any other course. It just, and that's what I think. Even looking at Barella, there's no chance that Barella's finishing second to last, unless he effectively gave up.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And just was being super aggressive at hitting trees and kicking OB. That's what I got to think.
All right. Well, that's what we saw on the MPO side. We'll go ahead and quickly I'll round out who we saw in the top 4 spots. We, of course, had Matteo. Tying for second was Gossage and Eagle McMahon. And then fourth place in a tie was Ricky Wysocki, Simon Lizotte, and of course Kelvin Heimberg, because Kelvin can't finish outside of the top 4 or 5. No matter what he does in a weekend, whether he's in 90th or 7th or 1st, it doesn't matter. Somewhere else in the top 4 is where he's going to finish. Spots 2, 3, or 4, according to his stats. Ben Calloway, 7th, all by himself, who got a lot of extra. I don't want to say extra airtime. That sounds like it's not deserved. He got airtime this weekend. That was the most.
Oh, it was well deserved.
Exactly.
Actually.
That's right. That's what I mean. Ezra Robinson, who we didn't really see at all.
Not at all. He shot a 6 down, came up a couple spots.
Yeah, he ends up tying Kevin Jones, and then top 10, 10th spot, Alden Harris, smashing his buddy Gannon Burr, who is one behind him, as those two make some jabs. So 18, I just had the number, I had it up a moment ago, but 18 grand for first place. Not too shabby of a weekend.
Which Matteo didn't even know. He had no clue until, I think, Tournament Central what the payout was. Because Perkins, I watched a little bit of it. Perkins actually was telling him, and he was like, whoa. So... You know?
And understandably so. Like, he probably, of course, I think he believed in himself going into that final round, but he's not thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to go out and win my largest purse of my life, and I'm going to take this down from Chase Card today. Those probably weren't thoughts going into his head going into the final round, but nonetheless, that's how it turned out. So, congrats to him. And I was going to go back for a moment. I know we kind of opened the show talking a little bit about that 2005 Worlds. Just to also throw this out, put it in perspective, 2005 World Championships. Orem finished in a tie for second with Barry Schultz at Worlds. They were a full 3 strokes behind you, and you gave Orem 3 strokes during that final 9. So you had him by 6.
Coasting.
And he shot the hot final 9. Yeah, he shot the hot final 9 to shoot a 27 on the final 9 holes. Doss, you gave up 3 strokes to him. So
yeah, I mean, and again, if I kind of mentioned it when I was talking about that story earlier, for those of you who are just new to the sport and watching the SmashBoxx podcast, well, thank you, because these guys are awesome and we love them. But if you're new to the sport and you've never seen a final 9, it's fine. It's the top 4 players. They play 9 holes. You can't go down. You literally can't go down. If you're in 4th place, you have the key to the castle. Do whatever you want. You could shoot 12 over and make the same amount of money and finish in the same spot. That, in my opinion, was one of the biggest challenges in a final 9, especially when the players were close.
Yeah. Because
the guy at the top, guy or girl at the top, had everything to lose, and the person who was in 4th had nothing to lose. And so, I don't know. Matteo, that final 9, he kind of took over.
Yeah. And also, just for comparison's sake, since we already have it up, you won $5,000 for first place for the World Championship title.
Cha-ching. Took everybody to Atlantic City, and I was only 20, so I couldn't gamble. I bought like 15 people buffet breakfast the next morning in Atlantic City.
Wow.
Burl, Val, Avery, Phelps, a whole crew of people.
Nice. Well,
so go on.
Orem's 2,500 probably wouldn't get you through all that. Orem and Schultz each won 2,500. Climo won 1,500 for 4th, and then Steve Rico just barely missed out on the final 9, won 1,200.
And I just want to say this:
there's Schwebby, 10th place.
Schwebby was right in there. I remember
Schwebby's on the board, $700, more than he probably won this weekend. And you probably won both events this weekend.
Exactly.
Schwebby.
He certainly added a couple wins to his thing. Last thing I'll say about what we've seen with the money, it is amazing. And when I was a young kid, this is what I dreamt of. Now, did I dream of seeing all this on SportsCenter and ESPN? And yeah. And we might get there. I mean, seriously, we might get there in who knows how long. But to see the payouts, to see these players making that much money is amazing. It is truly amazing. And I could not say that I'm any happier for any one of these players that have had life-changing experiences. Matteo maybe with this win and all of his contracts with all of his sponsors, I hope he can go buy a house down in Mobile, have somewhere to call home when the game does go away and he's not able to play. Those are things that I was the final generation, and maybe I left a little too early in that sense, but where we didn't do that. We didn't buy houses with what we earned. We just made it to the next weekend. We lived incredible lives. But I'm just so happy. The one thing I'll say when it comes to basically the Worlds, I don't think the money changes the prestige. When I look back at all of the world champions, they're still world champions, and they beat the best players that were available in the world at that time, from Harold Duvall all the way to Isaac Robinson. So the money to me is amazing, and I'm so happy about it. But I don't think it changes the prestige, because when you look at even what Matteo did, he beat the 72 best players in the world.
Yeah,
he could have won $5. He could have won $7 million. He still beat the 72 best players in the world.
Terry, real quick.
All right, and speaking
real quick, I want to follow up. Front nine versus back nine. Front nine plays negative 0.2 under par. Back nine plays negative 0.92. So technically the back nine is easier, but hole 9 really skews that, because it plays It plays 0.6 over par. So you take that out and it's very even. But hole 9 does push it at. Yes, you're right. Hole 9, because it is technically on the back 9, or on the front 9, does make that significantly easier. But I mean, overall, if you look at the holes, I think, Nate, you're right that they do balance out pretty well, with the exception of the one hole that just kind of weighs everything down. But
there's just so much. To me, it's really 4 is not as much dangerous, but 5 can be a blow up and have so much danger. 6 can be a blow up and have so much danger. 7 doesn't have as much danger, but it's very difficult to get to. 8 can be a blow up, and then 9 is just super difficult. Like those 4 holes, there's just so, and in the back, there's not blow up holes. Right? Like, there's all holes that are tough that you could go over par on. The only blow-up hole really is 14, and most people didn't end up blowing up there. Calvin did round 1.
18 or 14. Those are like the two
You
ones.
just don't have you have so many
where
more
you're seeing
blow-up
triple
holes.
bogeys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's going to segue perfectly as we talk about wins. Yes, Brian Schweberger's on the board. Yes, Brian Schweberger did win $245, winning 2 events this weekend. He won the Big Bear 3, and he won the 2023 Eco Tour powered by Prodigy, Hosky Creek. Anyway, Brian, 2 more wins this weekend. He wins on Saturday, the 16th. He wins on Sunday, the 17th. I think that brings his number to 381. So, Schwebby,
scroll up.
Your shout outs are going to cost you more than what you just won. That's what I'm going to tell you. Yes, 381 is the number. So congrats to one Brian Schweberger this weekend. All right, let's head over to the FPO side.
Haley King.
Wild.
Yeah, she played the back 9 very clean on that final round to come back and catch Kristen Tatar. I mean, she birdied 15, 17, and 18 in order to get and surpass Tatar, because Tatar bogeyed 16 and 17. That's really what it came down to. And Owen made a run at it, but just was too far behind going into those final 5 or 6 holes. Plus the triple bogey she took on 11 really took the wind out of her sails. But to fight back and get for the last 5, there's some fight in her. But but ultimately,
she absolutely had a chance to win it on the final hole.
Yeah, correct.
She was so overshadowed because we were keeping our eye on Kristen, who had the lead, who was then letting it slip away, and then Haley, the way she was charging, and then got there. But Owen was 100% right there and could have won it on the final hole.
Yeah,
it would have required the final hole well.
Yeah, it would have required Haley to not play it well, or play it for par even, in order to go to a 3-way playoff.
But I mean, it just keep in mind, Owen had the exact same chance to win it on the final hole that Kristen did.
Yeah.
But it's like it just didn't. It doesn't feel that way because Kristen did build such a big lead. But it was very easy to like overlook. I'll be the first to admit I did. It was very easy to overlook the fact like, oh yeah, Owen could still win this. Run the final hole. She's just one frickin' back. So was Kristen.
Yeah.
But yet you felt like it was a 2-woman race because the narrative for so many holes was just Kristen. And so I totally apologize because it wasn't until later that it kind of just hit me square in the eyes. I was like, wow.
Well, I think the triple bogey, it's about the pace of the round, especially as a commentator. You're focusing in on who's going to win. You're trying to call the golf. At the time when Owen took the triple bogey, she was playing about as good as anybody in the group, although Kristen was playing a tick better at that time. Kristen started her round off smoking hot.
Yeah.
And then that triple bogey came, and you kind of say, you go triple bogey, par, bogey. So you're 4 over in a span of 3 holes. You as a commentator, you kind of check her off the list. You say, now it's between these two. What's going to happen? And I think even heading into 17, you still are thinking Kristen's going to win this thing.
Yeah, until she misses that putt.
Yeah, she misses that putt, and she missed a lot of putts this weekend. But you got to hand it to Haley for sticking in there and giving herself an opportunity, and then to birdie 18 with all that pressure, with those two chasing. I mean, she earned it.
Yeah, it was a beautiful shot on 18, just to put herself where she was for that. I don't want to say easy, but for Haley King being so predominantly good at forehand for so long, she was able just to pull out a mid-range or a putt or whatever it was. It was a pretty thick rim disc. I couldn't quite tell, and just right where she wanted it. There was no question. It didn't look like she had any nerves. It looked like a routine shot for her, which is amazing considering the things we've seen on hole 18 in the past. And I think back to obviously Matteo had talked about losing it on 18. I remember Ricky losing it on 18. We saw Coriolis lose it on 18. 18 has broken people in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And this is on the FPO side. I've seen Val lose it on 18.
Oh,
I watched her make the mistake, go a B, and she lost it to, I think it was Katrina won that year. It's just, I could be wrong with that, but I've seen that happen. And 18, if you've never been there, you really don't know.
Yeah.
It's literally turned, what is that?
90
degrees to where you're throwing.
Yeah, it's such an unique angle, and that space is actually pretty small. Yeah. So to know they're hitting it with a forehand from as far back as they are has been incredible to see. I guess the real question I think that comes up is, does this show that I think it's answered. It shows that Kristen's not perfect under pressure. And the only reason why I say that is because there was such a stark similarity, if that can be used that way. It's usually contrast, but there's such a glaring similarity that of the final putt at Champions Cup last year,
sure,
final putt or two in 2022, those final putts, and then the putt that we saw on 17, when she puts that in, certainly she's not guaranteed the win, but she puts that in for birdie, and there's some breathing room. All right,
yeah.
She takes a sigh of relief. You expect her to make that putt 9.5 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
right. And I'm not saying it was an easy putt, but we expect her to make that. I don't expect me to make that. I definitely don't expect Johnny to make that. But we expect Kristen to make that putt.
And she expects to make it as well.
And she does as well. And so I just think of the pressure and knowing the scores, knowing where everything was. And I'm not insinuating she doesn't play well generally under pressure. I'm not insinuating that. It was one of those times where I gasped because
Waco throws all this out of.
Couldn't believe it.
I mean, what about her performance in Waco?
Yeah, where she dropped down a 35-footer. She still had to hit a 35-footer into the wind to win it with a death putt.
I agree.
Like that's I don't think, and I listened to another podcast who broke it down. Is like if you look at Tatar, there's been really 6 events over the last 2 or 3 years where she has been very close or chasing. She's won 3 of them and she's lost 3 of them. Now, I'm not going to say that this particular event wasn't due to pressure. She's never won Maple Hill. That could have been in the back of her head, thinking, I want to win this event. She has come in second the last 3 times she's played it. So maybe the pressure did get to her, just thinking, if I birdie out, if I get this, you don't know what's running through her head, that she hits that and then tickles chains, rolls away. I mean, it was an unfortunate roll, but and then to obviously miss that comeback, but the comeback was way more difficult than the initial putt. So
yeah, you think like how unfair that almost felt for a moment. I mean, I think back to Ben Calloway getting a terrible roll away as well on that particular. It's one thing to miss it, and then to know you're going to have a long comeback, 25, maybe 30 feet. It's another thing for it to then catch edge and then make it even more challenging on top of it. It's just like, getting kicked while you're down, certainly. So
not to take it away from the FPL, but look at what Matteo did. That dude hit like a 40-footer looking at the ridge. Like what a stud.
That was nasty.
In the zone.
That was nasty.
Just in the zone.
I don't think it mattered where a basket was.
No.
Matteo was finding it, right?
I know.
I just feel like he was so dialed in that nothing mattered, and the basket probably looked, 4 times bigger than it really was. So, yeah, it is wild. I know we went into the weekend like it is essentially a compliment when you're pointing out the fact that, hey, she's played here twice and somehow hasn't won yet. Well, now she's played here 3 times and somehow hasn't won, and that's wild to think that maybe, just maybe, there's a little tiny Maple Hill monkey on her back or a Maple Hill squirrel on her back or something that Kristen just hasn't locked it in.
And she did not putt well for the week.
No.
I feel like that was definitely the Achilles heel, and you kind of have to take Thursday or Saturday's round. You just put that one to the side. So looking at her putting statistic, I was just quickly kind of comparing things. For the week, she putted 76% from Circle 1X. Now, I thought, man, that seems like a pretty low number, right? I went for the season. Guess her C1X percentage putting.
Probably
it's easy.
78.
76%.
Oh, is it?
No, okay. 76%. They were exactly the same for the tournament and the season.
You clicked on all the right buttons.
Hey, I have been. Look at here's MVP. I checked it 3 times even, Terry. You know me with numbers. We have 7 holes left. That's an inside joke from the round. But when you look at her for the season, I mean, number 1 in fairway hits, number 2 in park jobs, first in Circle 1 in regulation, Circle 2 in regulation.
Circle 2.
Yeah, I mean it.
Wow.
At the end of the day, she putted for the tournament what she putts for the season. Now, based on her Circle 1 in regulation, she has a ton more opportunity, right? Because she's in Circle 1 in regulation 42% of the time. So, I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to look to the putting for Kristen when it was kind of average for her. Yeah. But it's all because of what we saw in 17, which is a dangerous green. And I remember as Matteo was walking up, I said to you and Sexton, I go, Matteo's got to be careful here. Nobody would blame him even for laying this up.
Yeah.
And he of course, he cashed that putt. Chris in a similar situation, hits the basket, rolls away, which could happen to anybody.
Absolutely wild when it was all said and done. So congratulations. Haley King is proved time and time again that she has every skill you need.
Oh, yeah.
She throws what looks so effortlessly out there. You look at Haley throwing a 350-foot shot, and then you look at Kristen throwing a 350-foot shot, just night and day difference. Like, Haley makes it look so easy when she's out there. And her long-range putting is also incredible. As I was seeing C2 putts, is it Owen or is it Haley is the best in the division? That's my question.
C2 putts is
for the season.
For C2 putting for this 2023 it goes Silva, Tatar, Owen, Aria, Morgan Linz. We go down there, and then you just keep scrolling down.
Okay.
Down. Haley's at about 16%.
Interesting.
Yep.
I'm surprised by that. And obviously, some of those numbers are, they're not skewed. They exist, but Morgan Linz has played far less events on the tour and had far less opportunities, but clearly has had a better percentage of them. So nonetheless, well, congrats, of course, to Haley. I mean, how could you not be massively entertained by this weekend, right? I mean, obviously, we had the FPO battle. It was epic. The MPO battle was epic. The only, I think, surprise was someone who's been so hot this year for the last half of the year, and you put her right up there with every single event. You think if anyone slips, you think of Missy Gannon being right there ready to pounce, and it was not her weekend at all, which is just really surprising, I think, for everyone to see. I mean, did she? Yeah,
she cashed, tied for 13th, down with Deanne Carey at 13 over for the tournament.
So, for whatever that's worth, obviously, we've put her. She set a new bar for herself, and we've put her up there as such a contender, and she's going to continue to be one. It's not like you can't. You're not immune to ever having an off weekend, but definitely an off weekend by Missy Gannon's standards overall. So, all right, Johnny, what do we got? Can you round out? Do I have it in front of me?
I can round it out.
I'll round them out. We've got Haley King.
Okay, go for it.
Go ahead.
No, you got it.
Right. Haley King, your champion. Kristen Tatar, tied for second with Owen Scoggins. Evelina Salonen taking fourth. Holly Finley had a week for herself as well. That's a whole nother discussion. She had 17 pars and a bogey during that final round, which is pretty crazy. Holland Hanley also had a pretty solid week, finishing in sixth. Macy Valadiaz finished seventh, and then tying for eighth, Hannah Blumros and Valerie Mandajano, and rounding out our top 10, Allie Smith. Wow, and with that, Valerie Mandajano, by the way, finished with an 8 on her final hole. And, wow, interesting to see that it didn't, instead of tying for eighth, she would have taken eighth outright.
Right.
So, somewhat inconsequential in that sense, but you never want to finish Maple Hill with an 8. Pretty crazy. Real quick, I'll address the, so to speak, elephant in the room. As plenty of people talked about it through the weekend, which I'm okay with. Yes, I am trying to.
I was wondering if you could bring this up.
I am trying to accurately say Kristen Tatar. And I don't say Kristen that way every time.
Right.
Tatar is how Tatar. That is how
an Estonian person would say it.
Yes. And so I feel that it would make sense as a 2-time world champion, as one of the most beloved, respected ambassadors, superstars, again, 2-time world champion. I don't see harm in trying for all of us to ultimately getting her name correct.
And you're changing the emphasis. You're effectively saying the same name. You're just changing the emphasis to the
Tatar.
A. Yeah.
Tatar. And some people were
instead of Tatar.
Yes, and somebody was giving me a hard time on our crew saying that I was saying tartar. I was not. You may have heard that, but I'm not putting an extra R in there somewhere. Tatar.
Well, I know. I'm sure Kristen does appreciate it, and I'll say this: if you go, I was questioning Terry, by the way, just so everybody knows out at home. I was giving her some trash because I said if you're gonna go all in, you got to go all in with the first name too. And an Estonian person wouldn't say Kristen; they'd say Christian.
Kristen.
But if you go to see some of the video coverage of her reminiscing about her last year's Worlds, I think the PDGA did it.
Yes,
I don't know
just
where to
before
find
Worlds
it.
this year on the Worlds channel,
Facebook
she introduces herself.
Yeah, and that's where you can hear it.
Tatar.
Yes, And I think from what I heard from that video and what you're trying to do, I'll give you like an 8 out of 10.
Here's where I failed. Here's where I 100% fall on my face and fail with the effort this weekend. Not 100%. 60% fall on my face. Is when I get excited or I don't think about it, I then revert back to tar. And I 100% admit that. I know this. That's why I understand it created additional confusion. If I would have nailed Tatar every single time I said it, it would have went so much easier. But I didn't. There were plenty of times I just reverted out of habit to Tatar, and I want to go 100 for 100 on saying Tatar.
So
and Rainer is Rainer's on the board. Rainer, you're on the board. Rainer, who I know from Estonia, along with now a bunch of other Estonians, he says, "Good job, Terry." So I'll take it. That's all I need. That's all the validation I need.
So here's something I was thinking about in general about pronunciations and whatnot. Like, are you Terry just left. He's like, he dropped the mic. He's like, I'm out of here.
He's getting the fan going.
I'm getting the fan going. All of a sudden, it's gotten warm in here.
Yeah, because you're fired up.
You're fired up.
Just wait till the beers start flowing.
How much of that is accent based on where she lives? If someone
100%.
Yeah, because think of my name, Van Derzen. I go to the old world. And they maybe they pronounce it a little differently because I have ancestors there. Van Durzen. I say no, it's Van Derzen. No, Van Durzen. Like no, not Am I offended because they say they don't say and they say Like I don't expect someone from and this is obviously imagine someone from the South just pronouncing a name. It's just. Accents are tough.
I brought all these arguments up.
I'm sure. See, Nate and I are on the same page. I get it, and I'm 100% okay with Terry. Obviously, you trying to pronounce the name as best as possible. I'm just curious as to how much of her pronouncing it is an accent based on where she grew up versus how we would pronounce it. Like, here's what I think. Here's what I hope. Regardless of how we pronounce, Henna is the number one person that everybody yells at that people are pronouncing her name wrong. Is it Blumrose? Bloomrose? Like people get all up in arms about it. And all I say is, guess what? We're not your native tongue. We're not mispronouncing your name. We're pronouncing your name with our accent. It's a little different because am I to try to mimic your accent? That's almost, depending on how you want to look at things, that's offensive. you know, if I make a stereotypical European or Southern or Mexican accent, whatever, people look at that as offensive, or it's a funny way to look at it when you're talking about foreign names. And I'll go on record as saying, if your name has too many little accent or dots in it, I just give up. I'm sorry. I'm dropping those.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a great example. When Cole Redolin first came on the scene. Now I had known Cole a little bit before, probably the world saw him on the Disc Golf Network, but it was Ledgestone, and he was making like the lead card or chase or whatever, and I texted him and I said, "Hey Cole, how do you say your last name?" Because on air, we were saying Redolin. We were. There was, and not only that, there was several different ways to say it, okay? It was like some people were saying Redolin, whatever it was. I asked Cole. He said it's Redolin. It's exactly how he said it, and so now that's the way we say it. I also appreciate your position as the play-by-play commentator and the host of the show to make that effort to say these names properly. Honestly, there's times when I'm just like, I just say the first name.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's a perfect
Terry sees my eyes. He sees my eyes, and then he'll say the guy's last name. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not going to touch that one. It's tough.
Look, here's one of our best examples, I feel like. And again, when I was in Finland last year, I had her say it, and then I even recorded her saying it, and I said it in front of her multiple times. Heide Laine. Mm-hmm. It looks like Heidi. I get it. So if you want to again argue whether that's actual pronunciation or accent or whatever, all I know is if she says "Hey de line,"
Yep.
that's what I want to say. That's my best effort too. Now, clearly, some people are just going to have very difficult names, and are just more challenging than others. But if you can get it, of course, I want to get it. So
yeah,
and I get it. Like Kristen and so many others have heard every wrong just butchering of it by 100 different announcers, live and on video and everywhere in between, and people they come across, and they usually just handle it. No better examples probably on the planet than the Mundahanos, right? People have been, including myself, have been butchering their names forever. And same thing, I asked them because I wanted to make sure that I could get it right, but they hear everything, and I even think you're on the tee. You're about to throw this super difficult tee shot. You're in the zone. You're ready to go, super high pressure, ready to go, and then someone just slaughters your last name. Like, how can you, even though you're used to it probably all of your life, that for 1 second you have to be thinking, oh, that effing idiot. What did they just call me? Like, that's got to be very difficult, I would think. And again, they're professionals, but...
Well, it sucks for you, because my last name is actually pronounced Dose.
Dose.
It's Dose. And you've been screwing it up for 25 years.
I'm going to start calling you that. 3-time world champion. Not Dose. Not Dose.
Yeah, another one is the team manager for Discraft. His last name is spelled what you would think is Julio.
Yes.
It starts with a J.
Julio.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty fair for people to think his last name's Julio. His last name, the way they pronounce it, is Julio.
Exactly.
And it would throw you off a million times over.
I called him Julio for probably
Julio.
10 years. I used to call him Julio.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think I heard Terry say Julio at one point.
Julio.
And then, now obviously we all know it's Bob Julio, but
yeah, you still even though you know him, when you see his name or think about his last name, you still want to call him that though, because that's how you would think it would get pronounced. But yeah,
well, I think Kristen definitely appreciates the effort, Terry.
Well, I will continue to unfortunately mess it up once in a while, but. I think there's no better.
Good move.
It's never too late to do it, right? Like, you can always do better. So I'm going to do my best. Look at Yuli too. Just as a quick side note, somebody posted on the board. Like Yuli, at least Yuli's on video at one point where he says it can be either, which is kind of bizarre to me, where he says it could be Ulibarri or Ulibari. He says it could be both.
Or Ulibari.
Yeah, or Eula, or however he does it. All I know is I go with, now I'm going to have to second guess myself. I try to consistently say Ulibarri. Ulibarri. I think of Barry Schultz, Ulibarri. That's what I go with.
Got it.
I always go, and I always say Ulibari. Because I always see that guy in a bar.
And apparently... that's a good
that's a good one. I like that. Like that.
There you go. So anyway,
big shout out to Yuli, by the way. He's the last player in to the Tour Championships with the assumption that Paul McBeth is not playing. I had the whole show. I had to preface that because if you looked at the live standings on Statmando, Yuli was out.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't bolded, and there's this whole thing with Parker Welk, who gets an automatic spot, even though Parker's down in like the 50s in the standings. But Parker Welk will replace McBeth, who won't play, which then would effectively bring the 32nd person back into the fold. So that's why I kept having to kind of bring that up. But huge congratulations to him beating out, Garrett by just a couple of strokes and a few points, and he got in. It's pretty cool.
We're almost 100% sure Paul
really
isn't playing because I believe Hannah is due in like 17 days, and he's hurt.
He's injured, and he's the question would be, and only Paul can answer this, if Hannah was not expecting a delivery date, coming up soon. Would he be ready to try to play the USDGC, and then even then, would his shoulder hold up with whatever injuries he's dealing with to go then play the Tour Championship? Again, only he can answer that, but I think that's one thing. And then also, yes, the delivery is at some point. And they live in Florida. It's not like they live in Charlotte where he can be playing and then like, oh, I'm going to the hospital and see you later.
Yeah, everything that has been – I mean, Paul said it at the Worlds. He said, this is my last event. He's obviously dealing with both, like we said, the injury and the new addition to the family. So, yeah, we're not going to see him there. I think in talking to even, I think it was Hannah earlier in this year, if Paul was having a banner season and was just out there shredding left and right, I think there's more second guessing that could take place for a few of these events where it's like, oh yeah, I'm in, I'm going to do what I can, and maybe I make a last second decision to not play. But he's not. That's not the case either. So maybe this is just the right time and place to go ahead and fully rest and recover.
It's honestly, you never want anybody to be injured, ever. I don't care who it is, even your worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, the fact that the decision is completely taken out of his hands and he can completely just focus on rehabbing the shoulder and being there with his wife for their first child, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and this just in, Smashbox exclusive. I've got official, as of 10 seconds ago, I just confirmed with Hannah. Do you know when they're due? You want to take a guess?
I'm going to say they're due the Friday of the Tour Championship.
Hold on, let me guess. Wait. That's 7-4. I'm going to go with October 5th. I'll take the Thursday.
That's early.
Right during the USDGC. First day of USDGC.
That feels early.
She is due the 12th, which would be the first day of...
I missed it by a day.
Yeah.
Damn it.
She's due the 12th, folks. So right after USDGC.
Hey,
and this is assuming, and due dates we all know. We're
late.
all fathers.
We
don't know any. Yeah, due dates mean nothing. They mean something but nothing.
But they can come early, of course.
Yep, early and late, it doesn't matter.
Yes. So.
Like there's all these old wives' tales of like,
matter.
Your first kid might be, is going to be early or it's going to be late. I've heard everything. It just, they come when they're ready.
Exactly.
And it's funny how everybody's really anticipating the delivery, but what ensues after once you have a kid, it doesn't matter. The delivery is a tiny sliver in time.
Yeah.
Raising a child for 18 years is forever.
Yeah.
So but I still would say, and I even said this to Paul, don't miss that moment. It is incredible. It's amazing.
Yes. So best of luck, Hannah. You're probably listening to this at some point or another. Thanks for the confirmation, and we wish you nothing.
They looked so happy. Just they had their baby shower. They looked. It was awesome.
Yeah, Paul's at home baking and doing all the husband partner things. So good for them. We love it. Okay, that's what we saw. The MVP, I don't know if there were any other massive storylines as we were talking about who got in, who didn't. Huge payout, lots of fun. We saw the East Coast Metal Roofing. Johnny, CTP contest. Johnny, did you have any, you probably didn't consume any of that?
I did,
did you?
actually.
You have any okay, any thoughts or takeaways on giving away $20,000 that way?
It was a little confusing as far as for a viewer. Now, thankfully,
shocker, right?
Yeah, I know. A Steve Dodge thing that comes out confusing. Who would have guessed it? Maybe a little over-engineered. It was a little confusing as to how they were doing the spectators, and they would draw a name, and you'd get something if they moved on. There was a little bit of that. There wasn't a lot of information about what moving on gave you. Like, cool, I just won. Do I get something for winning? It wasn't until the very end when it was like,
sure.
oh look, here's $4,000. And then
sure,
the ending sucked. Period. There's no better way to put it.
Because the person that had the advantage took advantage and then ended it.
Both times, yeah. Like, I just feel like
Yes.
it's like
It's
the
a
old
CTP contest.
Yeah, it's the old NFL overtime rules. Guess what? You score on your first. If you score first, the defense doesn't get a chance. Like, that didn't feel fair to me. I didn't like it for the NFL, which I'm glad they changed. I didn't like it for here because Eagle put one on the island, so to speak, where closest, and that was it. But
Yep.
I mean, I understand Steve Dodge, his concept, saying that I wanted it to end with a winning shot. Like, that makes sense to me. But to not give the other person who made the finals a chance to even beat you take some of the excitement out of the event. Like, just to, cool, oh yeah, I guess Eagle wins and you don't get to throw, haha. Like, and the same thing with Holland. Holland did the same thing. It felt a little bit deflating at the end for what I felt was a pretty fun and relatively exciting. I don't think it was as exciting as the ace run, but it was more active than the ace run because everyone likes to run at aces. That was my only downfall with it, was just the very end of it just felt let down.
Yeah, I just maybe just because it didn't even go one full attempt. Like, if Holland throws, doesn't get in, then Evelina throws, doesn't get in, and then Holland wins on the next throw, then maybe. But yeah, she basically ended it as quickly as she could have, which is of course what she's trying to do. She's not there for the drama. But yeah, if there would have been even one round during the finals, that I think would have totally changed our perception. But there wasn't even a full round.
For a man who emphasized the overtime rules of multiple holes to make sure that there was some fairness, that, we're going to play 1 and 18, to end it like that feels anti-Steve Dodge, and now that I think about it, I'm going to call him and complain about that. What would have been cool,
understandably,
is like is each player gets 2 shots, and then you combine the distance or something. Like, oh, look, so-and-so was 56 feet total away, and he was 82, 56 person wins, or whatever. And then on top of that, I felt like they should have gone one more bonus round and put the winner of MPO against the winner of FPO, because it was reachable for both of them. And Holland put it close, Eagle put it close. Just, it would have been fun to see. That's all. Like, that was kind of a little extra. I don't think it was required, but I would have liked to have seen it just to. And I know you guys maybe didn't necessarily want it to stretch on much longer, or you guys were probably done by then, actually.
No, we were out of there. Yeah, we were watching
it
in the green room.
Yeah, so nonetheless,
AKA our living room.
And at the end of the day, it wasn't my $20,000 to give away, so I can only be so critical. But yes, it was good to see that the money was given away, and that was their entire intent. Was, unlike last year, where obviously no one aced and no one won $1 million or any kind of real winnings. They basically paid $20,000 to an insurance company and went home with a little bit of excitement. This year, people walked away with cold hard cash, and there is a story to be said, and it's obviously far more impactful for Holland Hanley with where she is in her disc golf career and in her career earnings and winnings, to say that she threw one disc technically for $4,000. Eagle, isn't going to put that. Isn't going to retire that disc and put it in a Hall of Fame anywhere in Eagles Hall of Fame. But for Holland, certainly a pretty cool moment for sure. I was thinking, has Holland won? She finished second at Worlds. I was going to say, has she won $4,000 before? Like,
I think she did.
To do that in one shot. So I feel like she
probably
did.
At Worlds.
At Worlds, yeah.
Pilcher brings up a point, and it's a long-standing debate for this particular CTP. Kelvin put it off the top of the bucket. He hit the basket.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
It's got to come to rest.
It's got to come to... Okay.
It's got to come to rest.
I understand.
It's not closest to the pin M momentarily. Like, it's closest to the pin. Right? Like,
I get that.
If you want to argue, if you want to get silly, I think a much sillier but crazy argument is someone's touching the pole underneath and someone's in. At least there's an argument that could be had there because you're on the side of the basket, whatever. But, like, he hit and goes 40, 50 feet away. I'm
100% with you, because even if he would have been, we'll just say, 6 inches off the basket, that disc could have skipped 50 to 80 feet. without, the way it was coming in, I don't know for sure. But if it just barely misses, it hits the ground and it could skip way far away. So I'm with you. I just wanted to bring it up because I know it is. Ryan, it's not a closest to going in the basket. That's a different. That's different.
Yeah.
So, but that was
if that was the contest.
Closest run contest.
Yeah, then maybe he could have those arguments. So, Trevor Giant, who's out there, says $100 circle, $100 circle 2, $500 circle 1, $1,000 metal hit, 10,000 ace 3 throws. Okay,
that'd be
that's
fun.
Another interesting.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
About it. So. Again, we'll see what Steve does, but nonetheless, a fun side game. I think I would have still enjoyed the ice cream social more the next day, but plenty of activities and entertainment out there at Maple Hill, that's for sure. All right. Were there any other major storylines that came out of Maple Hill this weekend?
I don't believe there were.
Weather. Duh. Yeah, there was. Hell yeah. There was a major storyline.
Yeah, right. With
Saturday's wind in what I'll call Disc Golf
the
Pro
wind delay.
Tour precedents.
The delay.
Yeah,
delay.
There's been other tournaments that have either been canceled or delayed or postponed or whatever due to ultimately windy conditions, overall inclement weather, whatever. But in terms of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, with wind being the number one factor, I don't think we've seen it delayed ever before exclusively due to wind.
Not in the Disc Golf Pro Tour
sense.
Ether.
Yes. So that was wild. Like, I'll just say it. It was. And yet again, the internet shows up and is the internet. And a few of our players did as well. And I'm going to say this. If you think the Pro Tour or any of the staff or Seth Muncy or the tournament has anything to effing gain by delaying the tournament due to wind for like any gainful purpose, I don't want to just call you dumb. I want to call you dumb and wrong and dumb. Like, there's nothing to gain. Like, most people out there at the event in some capacity have like an 8 to 10 to 12 to 14 hour day. So if you think delaying play by 2 or 3 or 4 hours or even 1 hour, you think anybody's excited to do so, or there's an ego behind calling that. And somebody outright said, Seth Muncy of Disc Golf Strong, who happens to run Disc Golf Strong even though he works for the tour, needs to check an ego that you don't know Seth. You don't know what the F you're talking about. It's just wrong. I cannot scream that enough. It's so ridiculous to think like Seth Muncy's sitting there checking his phone with, by the way, using the likes. I've said this before. The likes of apps and resources that the NFL uses, MLB uses. I almost said NBA. That'd be weird. But NFL and NBA, we pay thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, I believe, to various services, and to have meteorologists, which is a word I hate saying, and to have them on call and available to us. So if you think anybody is nefariously doing it or doing it for any other gain for themselves or for the tour, it's just dumb. It's just wrong.
Yeah, we've seen other events get. I mean, USDGC, I believe the year Germ won, when the hurricane was coming in, that round was delayed because it was over on. I think it was on hole 4. There was a branch that fell when it got really windy, and so they pulled everyone off the course.
The water was so high.
Yeah,
the water in that lake was so high. Half of 5 was underwater.
Yep.
But go on.
Yeah, and so we've seen that. I mean, we've seen. God, I remember Nick Hyde when the wind took off, and that was right before a storm. That was, I think, maybe, was that Pro Tour or was that pre-Pro Tour?
Yeah, that's Pro Tour.
That's Pro Tour, yeah.
It was April of 2017.
Yep. And it did end up raining and lightning, but it started with wind, and I think it was was it Jonesboro a couple years ago? Or was that Idlewild? I think it was I don't remember. One of them.
Idlewild in 2017 or 18.
Yeah, that was it.
Insane. There were tents blowing away,
Yes.
like staked down tents that still were blowing away. Tons of stuff got destroyed that day. It was overall thunderstorms that had wind and rain. Yes,
but so
and
again, it's the Pro Tour, and we're in a new era of the Pro Tour where we have back then almost no spectators. You're talking a handful of people that very easy to get everybody off.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. A couple dozen that are easy to, hey, you round them up. They're probably following the lead card or Paul, wherever he happened to be. Get them off the course. We're talking now 400, 500, 600 people on the course, maybe more if it's a final day. Like the Pro Tour has like actual responsibilities to their public, because if someone gets hurt, and my understanding is there was a very small branch that fell and hit someone in the head. There was no injuries with it. Some might call it a twig. I don't know, but it still fell due to the wind and kind of clipped somebody. Okay, whatever. It just shows that there is a responsibility. So I don't question, and I hope nobody should question the safety aspect of that, because I think even Matt Graham was saying on Facebook or something that when it got to be that windy with gusts of 50 miles an hour, he said, stop and listen. You can hear the trees creaking. It just, you have to.
But I read somebody that said trees are literally built to blow in the wind. Like that's how they're designed. I think that was the word. Trees are literally designed to blow in the wind. Cool.
I mean, up to a point. So anyway, I think it was silly for people to question, for anybody, players or spectators, to question the Pro Tour. And I know I'm going to throw Big Gerb under the bus here, because he was one that made a specific post. I think he was up on the top of 11 or something at the time, 10 or 11, and was saying
12 or 14.
Yeah, he was at the T of 11 and 13.
13 11 and 13. Thank you. Yeah. And so when they called it, he was looking around like, hey, there isn't much wind going on. And it was the gusts, which is when they called it back to going on. He made another post saying, now look how windy it is. But it wasn't so much the sustained wind, although that could be a factor. They were more worried about the big gusts, which were hitting like 40 to 50 miles an hour, not necessarily the 30 mile an hour sustained winds that they were getting at times. Anyway, just people want to complain about something, and there's always a reason for somebody to complain about.
Well, I'll put a button on it regarding Germ. He made a post which seemed like he was second guessing and kind of ripping on the tour, and then he came back with a second one, well, kind of with the same mentality, and then made a third post saying, guys, I wasn't questioning anybody. I was just making jokes those whole time. Whatever his angle was at any point of those three videos that he kind of posted, I felt like it missed the mark.
Yeah, he missed the mark with the first.
If he wants to be funny, that's fine, but he no matter how he intended it, it clearly missed some marks out there. And somebody posted and said, but didn't you see what Big Germ posted? And I'm not taking Big Germ's reporting at face value. So that's what I'm
He's not a weatherman,
right.
although he dresses like it.
Here's what I'll say from the player's perspective. Is it frustrating when you're delayed and it's horrible weather? Yeah.
Absolutely.
You want to just
all
keep
been
going,
there.
and you feel like, boy, I'm in it. Why aren't they in it? And the timing of it being right before the lead card, I would say all of this, the delay itself, just the things that surrounded it, were going to put Seth Muncy and the Disc Golf Pro Tour, Jeff, in a position to be questioned. Because you stand up there and you say, we're delaying it now. What is it? 2 degrees or 2 miles an hour less? 5 miles an hour less? But what it was is they had an incident. They had to stop play, investigate that incident, check on a lot of other things. I guarantee you they weren't just sitting up in the sap house. I know Seth Muncy, and in fact, I spent some time with him in Portland while he brought an arborist out to the Portland Open. They're literally trimming branches that were above baskets, above tee pads for safety purposes. Seth is all about player safety, the safety of the spectators, staff, volunteers, all of that. They had that incident. They had to investigate it, come up with a plan, look at the weather. They see that the wind is going to subside just a little bit. Now, not a lot. It was still the edge of a hurricane that was heading up the eastern seaboard. And all of those conditions, and a lot of people on the internet were arguing this, were playable. Yes, they were. But it's different from when you're just out there by yourself, playing with your buddies, putting your own life on the risk, versus Seth Muncy, Jeff Spring, the Disc Golf Pro Tour team, who has, as Johnny said, upwards of 1,000, if not more, people's life on the risk, to think about. And so it's unprecedented, but we learn from unprecedented moments. This becomes data. This is something that now has happened. And when it does happen again, it won't be unprecedented. I think of back at Des Moines. Right?
Yeah.
We think of Des Moines when that huge storm was coming through. Everybody's looking around going,
yeah, it's
God, it
sunny out.
looks pretty nice out
rain,
here.
There's no wind.
And
it's
if you're
sunny
from,
out here.
If you're from California, you don't know.
You can say it.
You don't know nothing. There's another word I would normally use. You just don't know what you're like, whoa, it's actually pretty nice. And all of a sudden the wind's down.
Yeah.
Because this is what the term is called, the calm before the storm. They got these people out of there. It's a safety perspective. You come back the next day, you finish. Everybody has their opinion on all that stuff. I think the way that it was handled, even in the minds of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, maybe they had something to learn there. They could have done it differently. But I think with how they did it, not only do we get the players back on the course, nobody was injured, and we still got the round in. I think job well done, ultimately.
Yes. I don't know. Yes, it is so frustrating, and it's one thing to say something stupid, but then when you double down and you give your reason and you sound even dumber and you say things like Seth Muncy's ego, like I just couldn't think of anything more dumb and inaccurate this weekend. There's a few guys, but it's so inaccurate. And let's be real too, nobody in the control room, nobody in the booth, like nobody benefits and finds pleasure or truly
nobody wants their day
value
longer
in things getting delayed. So I'm just going to go on the record and say all of that. It did amaze me how many people. Yeah. Anyway, no, this isn't to say everybody does everything perfectly. We all know that. Like you said, there's stuff to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
But like I would much rather err on the side of caution here. Than to have something else. And that's not to say next week when it's perfectly nice out, a tree still couldn't come down on the lightest of breeze. Of course.
They do all the time. Right? When a tree falls in the wood, nobody's around.
Well, remember at Haley was standing on hole, I think it was 16, and there was like a dead tree off kind of behind her to the right, and it just like fell, and she kind of didn't even hardly react because she's Haley King. But yeah.
Golf fans out there, like big golf fans, people that watch golf week in and week out like I do, you'll remember the Masters. The Masters
this
of
year
all place.
Almost killed some people, didn't it? Yeah.
This year, a massive tree almost freaking killed somebody.
Yeah.
And what did they do? They stopped everything. They got it all cleaned up. And, of course, the weather was a huge story at this year's Masters. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it happens to the best of us, even in conditions when you think we can play in this.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the video of the guy putting in Emporia?
Yeah, the wind putt.
He's on the edge of that little pond, and it goes 100 feet behind him. We've played in these conditions. Of course we can play in these conditions. But when it comes to safety, that's when you got to stop and say, let's look at this.
Yeah, but I played in 60-mile-an-hour winds once. This is no different. Anyway, we'll move on.
We're gonna
otherwise I'll belabor for an hour.
Yeah, you are. You like to do that. We're gonna segue to an unfortunate topic. A place that may not have to worry as much about trees falling is going to be the IDGC because they're going to take them all down. We found out just today. I know it's like 37 acres or 25 acres or something. They're cutting down at the IDGC due to some beetle infestation, which means that they are now going to be moving the Champions Cup from early season until the very end. It's going to be the last week of October into early November, I believe, is what they said in the article. Because they're going to have to redesign.
Oh, that's just the PDGA board for you. Oh, yeah, they're just doing it because I don't know.
I don't know why.
I'm sure
they want to be the center of attention.
Terberg gets to come to Bend in November.
Yeah.
So they're actually like taking down, I think, 25 or 37 acres or something of trees, and they're going to redesign W.R. Jackson.
29 acres. Okay.
Which unfortunately they say is almost the entire area of W.R. Jackson. So they're going to have to redesign the course.
Wow.
So next year we're going to, assuming everything goes well with the redesign, I'm crossing my fingers that we're going to have a whole new course at the IDGC. Multiple new courses, but a whole new course.
Now you're planting grass.
We're going to play.
You're planting grass. You're putting OBs up. You're still going to have all the elevation, which is great.
They have already determined the actual specific date. Yeah, October 31st through November 3rd.
Didn't I just literally say that?
I know you just said late. I thought you said late season. I
literally said. I said late
know.
October into early November. Yeah, like that last week.
Well, I'm saying specific date is the 31st to the 3rd. Wow.
So it's which is really, it's going to be really interesting because we've seen, if we want to, and we'll talk about this next year, I'm sure. Right now, the end of the season is booked this year. Next year, we got Worlds, USDGC, Tour finale, and then Champions Cup all at the end. Like within
dang
a month and a half, 2 months. Like that's
that's tough.
So compressed to have. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, whether or not it's good to have, because we see Worlds moving later and later in the season. More and more injuries are happening later as the year goes on. Would you rather have Worlds at a time in like June or July when your players are maybe almost at the peak of their playing and they're the most, I want to say the most, but there's a lot less tear on them, wear and tear on the players, as opposed to when you get down to this point at the end of the season where it's a grind. So we're going to see next year. I would really love it, and obviously I have no advanced knowledge, and I doubt it's going to happen. It would be awesome if USDGC were to bump up. Like almost flip-flop with Champions Cup. Like if we could get USDGC earlier in the season.
Oh, jeez. Sure.
Otherwise, I feel like we're so compressed. I don't think it's going to happen just because I'm sure they've talked about it, but there's also contracts with Winthrop and all these other places and all these other things that they need to think about as far as working. You're cutting 4 months out of their prep time, so it would be probably a little bit more difficult for them. I would love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen because I feel like the end of next season is going to be just a shit show. And just I don't want to say a shit show, but it's just so compressed. It's going to be so busy. And to have all these big events.
Well, it's just hard to have. It's hard to have major tour, major, like all of a sudden you're going to have life-changing moments, like all so close.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen really in any sport that's an individual sport. You think about the 4 tennis majors, they're from January all the way through August. The 4 golf majors, now they did redo the golf schedule this year to where it's like a major a month throughout the summer because they're trying to get in between football, the end of football and the beginning of football, because a lot of their rounds finish on Sunday. So it's tough, man. It's tough. I like scheduling that having the Champions Cup be that late does throw a big wrench into even the preparation for the players.
Yeah, and it's going to be a whole new course, obviously, and everything else.
Yeah, true.
There's so much to it. So we could all sit back for another hour, all three of us and the board.
I could easily do that.
100 different ways that it could get.
We like to do that.
But I would have to assume. But I'm just saying, I would have to assume that everything that we could possibly say right here has already been said and thought about.
Yeah,
and work through.
Well, you'd hope.
You would hope, exactly. Yeah, because my mind continues to just think of all the different ways that you look at it. But that is really big news. I saw the news of the course, but I didn't fully process everything about how impactful it was going to be in terms of the play and then the scheduling for next year. So that's crazy. I just saw it as kind of a headline of, there's some beetle infestation and they have to do some stuff out there, but it's major.
Yeah.
It's literally a major.
All right.
So major. Terry,
hey-o.
and maybe more so Nate, I think about one person right now who's Paul Macbeth chasing Ken Climo. Does this almost advantage him a little bit to maybe he can take the beginning of the season off, really heal up?
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're doing this. That's entirely why they're doing all this.
I heard Paul release the Beatles. He put the Beatles in the trees. But I mean, think if you've got no early season, if you've got no early season major, what does he really have to come back for? Because we all know he doesn't give. I mean, he cares. I'm going to put that in quotes about the Elite Series events, but he doesn't really care. You know, he cares about the majors. And if you're going to stack the majors at the end of the season like this, why wouldn't you just take all that extra time to don't even start playing until May, and then start to ramp your season up?
And I don't disagree with you. I think taking time off is critical. I think Paul will play if his body will allow him to play. I think he's
a
still
competitor.
A competitive person. I mean, I agree with you 100% that he can lighten, and I'm not, in no way am I saying what Paul should do. I just want to be very clear about that. I'm just talking in like a broad sense here. Could he lighten his early season schedule, say until May when things really start to ramp up? He can go out to California, play in Oregon, head back into the Midwest, go to Europe, assuming he's 100%. Yeah, I think that's good. But also, we've seen it with Ricky this year. Coming in late, it does put you behind the 8 ball, right? It's like coming in game 6 in the NFL season, right? Because now you're going against guys who've had 5 or 6 games already played. And I think there's a fine balance there. So maybe a lighter front end so that when that European Open, Worlds, USDGC Champions Cup run comes, so it's going to be like mid-July till November, he's peaking. Mm-hmm. I could see that being an option.
Yeah. And who knows? Like you said, it's the same conversation for why he's not playing at the end of this year, right? It's his health and his child, and next year those will both be part of that conversation as well. So we'll see.
And I wonder if it'll affect not just Paul, but all the players as to their choice in events next year. Some of the players that can maybe take a few extra events off, if they will choose to, just to try to stay healthy for the end of the season. So, because I mean, look again, look at Own this year, who's wear and tear, and she's, hopefully she heals up, but she's been broken at the end of the season with her arm and still taking third place and second place, and but I don't know.
Owen is also out there throwing more shots than most normal people with the amount of practice that she continues to put in.
I mean, listen,
incredible. She may even just have to lighten her practice load to some degree too.
Are you saying that every player's not out there throwing 300 putts after every round, like she is practically?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. No. Speaking of majors, tomorrow Flex Start here in Bend. I am again
announcing tonight
officially.
At noon.
Registrations are rolling in. They're literally coming in as we speak. Yes, just for the flex of it. Part 2. Yes, down to the day essentially. Last year on Wednesday, in between these two events, I hosted a just for the flex.
Well, it was actually between GMC MVP.
Was it?
Because Women's Nationals was earlier in the year.
Oh, yeah,
but
you're right,
same timing.
Same timing, though, by a day.
Yeah.
It was the 21st last year. This year's the 20th. It's still on the Wednesday. So just for the flex of it, part 2, we've got registrations rolling in.
Wow, they are rolling in, literally.
And we just got it all announced and locked in today. We're halfway to the point of success in my eyes. I think we've got about 5 registrations. I thought, well, it was a late start, so if 10 come in, I'll be happy. But
All right.
no, seriously, if you're in the area, of course, if you happen to be listening now and only now, will do you any good. But Flex Start taking place out here in Bend, which is going to be kind of cool. That essentially will, I was thinking about this before I came over. That means I'll have run a tournament essentially in Estonia and in Bend, Oregon, both within the same month. So that feels pretty cool. So come on out and play.
That's the Discord.
I just hope I don't have to delay it, due to high winds, and that will be
Smoke.
all ego.
We'll have the AQI.
AQI shit. AQI. It is a little bit smoky here.
We've been running about 70 for the last couple of days. We'll see.
And
which is legit. Disc Golf Pro Tour number is a 150 AQI.
It's 150.
Below that
okay.
is safe for healthy individuals. It is unsafe for people that are at risk, right?
Okay.
People with
So if you're at risk, don't come out
COPD.
tomorrow. I don't want you to be in danger.
No COPD people.
Yeah. But everybody else, come out and play tomorrow. 10 to 5 is when I'll be sitting at the park and taking in registrations, or pay online and then show up, and we'll see you out there. So another day out at the
Pine
Pines.
Nursery. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you get a big women's contingent that then just flies over to the East Coast for the USW DGC.
Yeah.
I mean-
I expect a pretty good turnout for okay, maybe not. So real quick, let's just touch then on upcoming major. Of course, we're hoping to have the champion, maybe even the TD as well next week. But upcoming, I think the biggest storyline, it's twofold. One, it's a very quick turnaround. We all know that from just playing at MVP to then get down to Burlington, North Carolina. And two, I think the even bigger storyline to it is the fact that this is a course we haven't seen. This is a course that's essentially new to our players. It hasn't been a silver event. It hasn't been an elite series. It hasn't had a major there that they've played anytime. And I think those are the two biggest factors, and it being a new course, probably the number one factor for sure. So we'll see how that's going to shake out.
Yeah, and the biggest storyline is can Christian complete the Tatar Slam?
Yes. Okay.
Right? This is the fourth major.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because Throw Pink, while it's happening at a men's major, is, and correct me if I'm wrong,
An open major, yeah.
The open side of that event, which is the USDGC, that is a major, but the Throw Pink is not considered an actual PDGA major. Right?
Correct. It's just an A tier.
Correct. No, the throw pink.
Okay, so it's an A tier. So for Kristen, this is a big moment to win all four majors in a single season. It's affectionately known as the Grand Slam in tennis and golf. So I think that would, that's got to be on her mind a little bit.
Yeah, she admitted as much. I think it was during the press conference before the MVP even took place. They had asked, and she, in so many words, admitted that she's got her sights set on it, and it's something that she's thought about and would be cool to do. I mean, she didn't, profusely, go on and on and on about it, as you wouldn't expect her to.
No.
But it's definitely in the back of her mind, and it's a feat we haven't seen before on the FPO side, really. So not in modern day disc golf terms, anyway. So
No, I think JK did it when there was 3 majors, maybe for
Sure.
women, like 2 decades ago or something. Maybe it was only when
She
there was
won
2.
like a Japan Open, Worlds, and like the women's nationals or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that would probably be it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe it was
So
only
it would be the
maybe it was
USW
even 2.
DGC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she won Worlds and maybe like the Japan Open, which at the time was a major. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
David asked on the board, will U.S. women's live up to the expectations? I saw a lot of people out there practicing just from social media posts. Seems like people are enjoying it. Somebody else, I forget who it was, but one of our FPO players very, explicitly just said they really enjoy the courses.
Did you see
course.
the post where Kristen, it said, "We love you, Kristen"?
I did.
It was like written on the T
And
sign.
I do, and of course, I hate that for the vandalism perspective.
of course.
So
It's needless
don't
to
do
say.
that. And that did frustrate me. If you don't know what we're talking about, Kristen Tatar had posted that there was a post of one of the T signs this weekend, and I think it just says "We love you, Kristen" or
Yeah, I
something
think
like
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Like, Now, I mean, her ego, assuming that's for her. I mean, there could be other, right? But no, seriously, that was written there on it, and she had pictured it. And as much as it's a cute, cute's even is a stretch. As much as it's a sentiment, don't vandalize T signs. Don't write on a T sign.
Yeah,
like
that's a good
those
point.
aren't yours.
Good point, T-Dog.
No matter what you're trying to convey.
There are some videos on YouTube of the course.
Yes.
Of the course layout that they will be playing for the tournament. So you can go out there and watch those. I know Val was watching those earlier today.
Drone
and
flyovers.
She's going to watch a little bit more of that tomorrow. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it looks on camera. It looks pretty wooded, as you would expect in a North Carolina course. But it also looks really well taken care of. So,
yeah. So we'll see.
We'll hope for the best.
I think I did get a note from our tournament director. He just says, as you look at the course, keep in mind two things. One, it's less than a year old. And two, it was specifically designed for FPO women.
Oh.
Which is great.
Couple of...
Interesting.
So based on those two things, just off the top of my head, not having seen anything, I picture the course as being a little bit rough. If you get off the fairways, probably we'll the term I always dislike, the natural OB, but just tougher to get when you're off the fairways, and we're not going to see a bunch of 700-800 foot holes. I imagine
it does come in at like 8,800 feet. It is not.
It's a par 69. The first hole is like 690 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then hole 2 is like 245.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I expect to see
length,
more
though,
under.
It was 8,700.
I expect to see more under 300 foot holes than we're used to seeing, is what I imagine. Not to say that they'll all be that way.
750. Well, I'll quickly rifle through them. They're playing now. Also of note, they'll play the same exact course all four rounds.
All 4 rounds. Yeah.
So 559, 279, 889.
As a par 5.
487, 248, 612,
As a par 5. Hold on.
Yep.
A 612 foot par 5.
Yep.
Keep going.
Hole 7 is 475, 283, 250, 632, a par 5. 531, 301, 583, 547, 333, 887, par 5. 328 and 526 to finish it out. So 8750 is not like a little walk in the park. Yeah.
No.
So
and when you start to think about that it's a par 69, we just mentioned, and I wasn't scoffing at the pars because of the distance. I'm thinking either these are soft par 5s or they're wooded and there's some right angle North Carolina kind of
wooded and or hilly on top of it potentially.
Exactly.
As the board is saying. So,
yes, sir.
So that's what we have.
There are some course maps, but they're not as full featured as the DGPT ones. They're
Pro Tour,
as the kids would say, they're mid.
They're mid,
that would
yeah.
be the phrase. They're
definitely mid.
Yeah, mid. That's what a tween would say. Mid. No cap. So also, just to backtrack and forward track a little, put it all together. The big news 7 days ago was Kristen Tatar getting to 999 in terms of her rating. Then people were talking about what she needs to average until the next ratings update, so on and so forth. I think my math showed me for the weekend, last time I looked, and it may have changed, 999.5 is what she averaged. Somebody unofficially, I think, mentioned last week she needs to average 1,002 until the next update. So 4 rounds this weekend. When I checked on Sunday, I did not go back and look again. When I checked on Sunday, I think Haley was 1,001.5 as an average, and Kristen was 999.5 as an average.
I would only trust Chuck Kennedy to tell me an exact number of what she needs to.
Correct.
Because it's all about what rounds fall off, and
I know
if one round skews way off her normal, then that doesn't count.
Yep, standard deviations and
right?
all that.
So if she goes out and shoots a round that's 850,
it doesn't even
count.
It drops. It doesn't count. So,
I believe anything under about 950 drops for her.
because she's at 9.99.
Something like that, yeah.
Some standard deviation, cotangent, cosine.
Do you guys think
inverse something?
Trigonometry, logic, if then statements.
Sine and cosine. Yeah.
Do you guys?
I got out my
think
TI 84.
This is a huge thing, of course, and whomever gets to it first, whether it's Kristen or Paige or whomever, I'm just saying, if it doesn't happen for Kristen, it's also a factor of this rising FPO field. Right? There's more players at better ratings than there's ever been before. And they continue to rise together. The men did that for...
Certainly.
I mean, I have been around, and so have you, and so has Johnny, and I'm not old, okay? I just am saying. I was there... Not as old as you. I remember the first year that they came out. You know, they just had to put one on everybody's name, and the men just started to rise together because as the ratings got better, the round ratings got better, and it just kind of crept up and up and up and up and up. And of course, we've now sort of leveled off at this like 1050, 1060 gap. And I think that's what we're seeing with the FPO too.
Yeah,
and it's pretty cool to see. Because not only is Kristen setting a new standard for what greatness can be while she's been playing, everybody else she's bringing everybody along with her.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see, and somebody just said on the board, all three of us agree. Ratings are not an end-all, be-all. Clearly, we don't talk about them on the weekly normally. We're just on the edge of a new barrier and of something that is truly historic in that sense. But ratings are not something
it's a milestone.
We belabor.
It's a milestone to remember.
Yeah. So we shall see. It's pretty cool. Hannah's on the board saying, joining late with a question about this topic. If matters that the top-rated FPO aren't playing well this year, well, Kristen is shooting super hot, right? How dependent is KT's ratings in the others? Yeah, how when you distance yourself significantly from other peers and high-rated players, that's always going to give you a benefit, so to speak, in terms of the ratings. And I'm not going to claim I know how they work. Somebody challenged us last week afterwards and said basically that I didn't know. I don't know. I do not know. I don't have a calculator. I largely take the word of other trusted people that are smart enough to do some of these things, but there's not a lot of people that know the exact science behind all of it, and I'm definitely one of those people that doesn't understand all of the actual math and details. But I have a general understanding that's, I think, not idiotic. So that's how I'll qualify it. So anyway, that's what we're seeing. It's a side note to her weekend. Kristen would probably take the win over, shooting 999.5 from this weekend. She'd much rather have the win. That's more of her concern. But a side note was that she was still playing really good golf in terms of the ratings, and we'll see how they all shake out. All right. Just when I think we don't have any other side stories, they're actually left and right. They're everywhere. Let me talk. We just got another reg. Let's talk about tomorrow.
They're rolling in.
They are. I just got another one. So, Steven, we'll see you out there tomorrow.
Yeah, Steve Segura.
Yeah, looking forward to having you. Hey, I was thinking, should we have some bevel? Kent, is there anything that's practical that we could reward our competitors with, that I could a carrot I could dangle for tomorrow night? What's the special at Bevel tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Wednesday. There's music.
Okay.
There's live music that'll be happening at Bevel.
And half off beers if you played in the tournament.
And is that what we've got going on? Is that what you want? I mean, we can do. There's
half
a lot
off your
of
first
options.
beer.
All right. Well, we'll.
Yeah.
Or your first
disc
pitcher.
golf guy's buying everybody a beer.
Wait a minute, I ain't buying anybody
You might see
beer.
a lot more restrictions.
All right, we'll figure it out.
Hey, come on. All these people that are signing up, if you haven't been to Bevel, come on over. We're
we'll
a great disc golf themed brewery here in Bend, but either way, come on over. There's some great music happening tomorrow.
Do we have any beer here we should be drinking?
Is that what you want?
I'm not going to stop us.
Is it after show time or is it?
Sure. Let's get into the after
or
show.
is it? I don't know. Is this
we
the
can
end,
drink
Johnny?
beer anytime. It
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
matter.
Oh, yeah, it
I
doesn't.
didn't know.
But I think
I didn't know
that,
if the FCC didn't let you.
No, we can do whatever the hell we want here. All right.
It's all NA beer.
All right, Johnny. I'm yeah.
That's
exactly.
right.
I'm gonna get hammered on it. All right, I am ready to call it for a regular show, and in the after show we can have some other chit chat and maybe have a beverage or two. We'll maybe keep it kind of short tonight, but we're ready. Nate, I want to say thank you for joining us here tonight.
Man, seriously, thank you guys. I think the first one I was a part of, I cannot remember that one, but I can remember specifically the first one I did in Johnny V's basement.
Yes.
And that one we went on for, I don't know, 6 hours.
Yeah, that was a long. That was a long. Everybody remembers the first time in my basement. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Whether you're there,
some didn't get to
whether you're chained up or
you got out. Some
whether you're there by choice or not.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for continuing this on. This is 472. I'll never forget the day that Terry and Johnny V told me that they were going to do this, and I said they were nuts.
Well,
but
still are.
But honestly, without you two guys, Johnny and you, Terry, I think things would be a lot different. You guys really have done a lot for the sport. And I know that all 155 of you watching right now probably agree. And so thank you guys. I'll try to do this at least once a year while Terry is stuck in our little town. And I got to tell you, for him, he gets antsy because it only takes 10 minutes to drive across Bend, and he's like,
what's next?
What haven't I done yet?"
Yeah.
But no, and honestly, I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I'll be watching in the other room while you guys are doing the commentary, so it should be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it. Well,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to stand down for just a few moments, and then we can get into the after shows, maybe have a beverage or two. This has been SmashBoxxTV Podcast 472, our MVP recap. Nate Doss, along with Johnny V. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV Podcast 472's After Show.
After bro.
Yeah. All right, we didn't nail that, but close enough. Close enough. Welcome
Nate,
in, everyone. This is the after show. Yeah, go ahead, Johnny.
there's a really good question on the board that I want to get to, Nate. So
Uh-oh.
there is a special USDGC skins match happening this week or this year with like Climo, Schultz, Schustrick, a lot of the classic players. I know you're not coming out of retirement. You're very happy doing what you're doing, and would you contemplate doing like a exhibition 9 for something like that at USDGC?
Absolutely. I will say this. I am definitely happy with what I'm doing currently. I love my job. I love being home here in Bend, and I love doing the commentary. I really do. I know some people don't like that I do, but I do. And sorry for those people because I'm not going to stop anytime soon unless they fire me. So that being said, there are a few events that I have been thinking about lately actually coming back and playing. And I'm not announcing anything, and I'm not saying this will actually happen.
SmashBox exclusive.
But like the USDGC is one of them. I have thought about it before I get too old. I'm currently 38, and I'm not playing this year's. But, I'll be 39 next year. And as a previous champion, if I can get a spot in the tournament, I think I would maybe try that. But it all depends on where I'm at in my life. It just kind of like what I'm doing. I stepped away from disc golf not because I wasn't in love with it anymore, but because I felt like I had something to give to other things in my life. And it's funny now that Val and I have had a child, I think about
Getting
everybody's
away.
like, oh my God. No, everybody's like, oh my God, this kid's going to be a great disc golfer. And I'm like, is this kid even going to know about disc golf? Like, I don't play that often.
Mm-hmm.
So it started to get me thinking about at least playing a little bit more, even casually around town a little bit more. And yes, actually, I was invited to do the GK Skins World Champion version out at Smugs, but of course we weren't there. And I think they had a great group. I think Avery and Conrad, Barsby, and who was the last one?
I didn't see it.
Either way, it doesn't matter. And if I was to be in Rock Hill and be a part of that, I would absolutely do it. I think I'm definitely ready for that in my life. Am I going to come back and be a great champion? Probably not. But if I can go out and hold my own, shoot a couple of good rounds, and get to just get that feeling again, I think that would feel nice.
Yeah.
Would you want to be on
I think
coverage?
about how satisfying and
that's another great question because
do I get to call it?
Yeah, because we'd have Terry in program
okay.
in your ear while you're playing, just so you know.
I could be on air with you.
Yeah,
at the time.
yeah, that's been tried.
I'm not immune to thinking about that. It's not like I would just say, no, I'm just doing this for me. I think that if I did come back at, say, the right event, I think there would be a conversation to say, well, Nate's playing. He hasn't played in so long. Would we want to have him be covered? I personally wouldn't care. I started being followed around with a camera back when I was 20 years old. When I won the Worlds, my life was forever changed. And while I know it seems like small potatoes because it was only $5,000, but at the end of the day, I was a world champion, and my life was forever changed. I had cameras and people and guys like this guy over here, Johnny V. You were carrying cameras out there too. So if that were to happen, I would gladly do it. My only goal in this sport, I don't have any personal goals anymore. My only goal is to grow the game. That's it. That's why I do commentary. That's why I am in communication with some of the players out there, telling them how proud I am of them, how happy I am to see them succeed. It's about growing the sport, man. I had a dream all those years ago to leave the game better than I found it, and I'm still working on that. So if me being on coverage was something that the media wanted, I would gladly do it. if they didn't, I would gladly be okay with that as well, because you could go and cover better players.
Yeah.
Are the best players in the world. So I'm open for all of it. Will it ever happen? Probably not, but you never
You're
know.
saying there's a chance.
You never
You're
know.
saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
All right. With that, your next love. Let's talk about this.
This is your love.
Well, okay. Full disclosure here in this case. Yesterday, I had parted ways with these guys and went and did a few things on my own. And there's a place, and I don't know how much I've posted about them, but it's called That Guy's Bistro. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to That Guy's Bistro. Makes phenomenal Philly cheesesteaks and tri-tip steaks, cheesesteaks and
Sandwiches. Yeah.
Usually they're in like a pita. They do like a pita bread or a wrap of sorts. Phenomenal. And I've now made it my point that every time I'm in Bend, I'm going to go there just once during my visits, and I really enjoy going there. Next door to there, they had a beverage beer store.
Yep.
And so I went to look around for some stuff. As many of you know, I'm all about the double barrel aged imperial stouts often. And this one just is a pastry stout with coconut and almonds. And it's called Sugar High.
You should love it. And it's made by 10 Barrel.
I didn't know that. Yeah, it's made by 10 Barrel, which is right here in Bend. And surprisingly, I've not had this ever. This is 11%. 11%.
10 Barrel was started here in Bend, was one of the breweries that was purchased by Anheuser-Busch several years ago. They were an Anheuser-Busch owned craft brewery for a long time. And just recently they were sold. Anheuser-Busch actually sold 10 Barrel to another company, of which I believe is in like the cannabis world.
Realm, sure.
Yeah, and they've been buying up some different brands. So cheers, Terry.
All right, cheers. Here we go, folks.
Cheers to you, Johnny. Thank you, buddy, as always.
Bevel's out. Yeah, bevel out, sure.
So seeing as how
just
we have
to kind of button up.
Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
Oh,
I want to button up that whole conversation that I just had with all of you out there. I would not be doing any of that stuff for anybody but me. It would just be for me personally to go and just get that feeling one more time. I was so lucky in my life, and you guys know it. I turned pro in 1999, and I never looked back. And I had some of the greatest moments in my life. I had some of the biggest heartbreak in my life. And for a time in my career, I felt like I was doing it for the fans and for the sponsors and for the sport. But at the end of the day, if I were to go back and play the USDGC or even another event, it would just be for me to get that feeling again, and that's okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fans. I would love. I think it would be, and again, I know you just said you would do it for yourself and for your own reasons. It would also be awesome, though, and this can be said of a number of our players that are the sport's best, that were just prior to the big blow up that we've had in present day, media and history. So yourself, your Climos and those types.
Yeah.
Before the spotlight was as big and wide and bright as it is now, you guys were just ahead of that, largely. So for that reason, it would be awesome to know that you could, quote unquote, come off the couch, to use a term. You could come off the couch and beat 99.99% of our listeners right now is pretty awesome, and I would love for that to happen just for that. And that becomes ego-driven, to some degree. In some ways, you could look at it that way, but for me, I think it would be really cool because I think there's so many people that clearly never watched you throw a disc or watch you perform or watch you take down. How many majors? 4. I was going to say 5, so 4 majors, 3 being Worlds, and then a European Open, maybe.
Players Cup.
Never got the European Open. Did take.
Oh yeah.
I won a Players Cup, but that was when it was a match play event.
Okay. Oh, it wasn't a major.
You didn't win Japan ever.
No, I never won Japan.
What did you win?
Took second there.
Latvia?
I have taken
Australia?
second place in a lot of events. No. I've won 3 Worlds and 1 USDGC.
USDGC,
Oh,
yeah.
duh. Yeah, I knew that. I don't know.
I knew that.
That's how I would be getting
2008.
into the
2008?
2008.
Yeah, see, I knew that.
Terry's got the
okay.
second place
Yeah,
trophy.
No, not yet. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, pretty crazy to see where it's at. For all those asking, this is very smooth and rich and
It's
delicious.
It's pretty sweet.
I hate
the coconut. Yeah,
I hate coconut,
was
and it's
surprised
overpowering.
I was surprised you bought it.
I really
It's okay.
hate
It's a
coconut.
pastry stout, so it's quite sweet.
normally I can't even taste coconut, even though they say it's in there. This one is like
Comes through.
very much coming through.
I have a question for Terry and then a question for Nate. Terry, I'm going to put you on the spot based on what you just said. With a put together a foursome of players, we'll just say MPO, who missed the spotlight that you would like to see.
That missed the spotlight.
That
because
missed our
I'm
current
recording
generation.
Them, I'm broadcasting them.
Yeah, we're
be
gonna
live
we're-
for a
yeah
day.
we're gonna do similar to our the Blue Valley Challenge back in the day. We're gonna do just an expo of people who didn't we'll say pre-COVID boom players or pre-pro. I don't want to say pre-pro tour because Nate falls into the pro tour era as he won one GMC.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, where are we splitting hairs? Because, like, someone like,
You get to pick.
Clearly a Barry Schultz, when Barry Schultz isn't injured, he's still out playing at a high level, but he's not going to a ton of the big events anymore. But the classics of our era, even just a little bit before Nate, as Nate then came in, the classics of Johnny V and I's era, at the time that was dominating, Ken Climo in the 90s when we found the game. It was Climo, Russell, Stokely, then ultimately Schultz as well. Like those were the biggest names there. And then you had a Mike Randolph, who was of course competitive, but didn't show up, week in and week out, just going to events. And then you have to think of Steve Rico, who's clearly been around forever, has 150 or so wins, and has been playing forever. And then there was like the slightly newer era of Doss and Avery Jenkins, Dave Felberg, and those types. So Cam Todd was somewhere, kind of meshed over those two different sets. But I mean, personally, because of my history and because of where we grew up and who we know, you have to think Climo and Schultz are givens there. And then I've developed such a friendship, and he very much has missed the spotlight in that sense, would be a Steve Rico. Obviously, Nate, as he just said, could or should be in that conversation.
There's your foursome.
I mean, you were here later and longer, though, even more so than those guys.
If you're talking about guys that just missed out, I look at Rico, Brinster, Jenkins, Felberg.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my foursome.
Yeah.
I am younger than they are. And I never really left the game because I jumped right into this weird commentary thing. But those are the four for me that were the boom because of their age, not because of their skills degrading or whatever. And some of them are still playing, even at a high level.
Yep.
But that's my foursome for I mean, Dave Felberg is a 10-time major champion. Avery Jenkins is a world champion and just overall was a superstar in our game for a long time. Rico won the very first national tour and won a lot of other national tours, by the way. He just missed out on a lot of the big majors. He won in Japan as well. And then Brinster's a USDGC champion, and for a long time, Brinster dominated in his region, and when he would come out to the tour, he always played well.
He was a threat.
He always played well. He played well at Maple Hill. He played well at the USDGC year after year after year. Those are my four that recently missed the boom. If you want to start having a bigger conversation about all the other people that deserve so much more than they got,
Yeah,
we could go.
Yeah,
down
that's a whole
different
nother
road.
pool.
That's a whole
of
different
people.
question,
And then-
'cause
and
as
then
someone-
swirling,
yeah.
swirling around is like a Matteo. As he's kind of blended a few of these decades and eras, and Greg Barsby's blended them, and a Double G disappeared for just a couple years, but then ultimately has blended and kind of transcended throughout the late '90s into today as well. So. A couple other of those names. Yeah, it's
But
wild.
those
And somebody
guys,
said,
those guys didn't miss the boom.
no,
See,
correct.
they
They've been
took
here for it.
advantage of the boom.
It was just on their later
because
end
they
of their-
committed to it, right? Barsby wins World right before the boom. Garrett's won several events here, and now Matteo just wins a massive paycheck on the biggest stage. So
I feel like
think
someone
those
brought
three
up a good
guys-
name like Schustrick just barely missed the boom due to injury. Like he
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
up
for
sure.
and into our sport.
he was
through,
forced to retire.
Yeah, like up through 2018. He was maybe even was it 2017? I forget when he stopped kind of being competitive, but he's still obviously active in the sport, just like Emac. But just kind of missed the players boom, and not due to his age, just due to that injury, because he could be Matteo right now
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as something said on the board, look at McRae, who's also managed. He's had some health concerns over the last 2 years specifically, but how he's been right there. He's been on lead cards, been there as a fierce competitor for many, many years, and he's doing it while he's significantly older than so many of these other guys. I mean that as nothing but a compliment. It's just insane what he's accomplished at, what he was doing at his age. So.
And I love Johnny McRae, and I've known him for a very long time. Johnny never won the big one. Right? He would never be in that category. Schustrick is a great argument. Certainly his body failed him, but he's been a part of the boom in the sense that he is a part of Prodigy. He is continuing to work for them, whether he's putting in courses or developing new discs or whatever he's doing over there. He's still a part of it as well. He's just not on the course. So I think there's a lot of ways to take it. Not advantage, but be a part of what is happening right now.
Certainly.
You think about like even a Brian Earhart. I mean, think of what Brian's been able to do and be a part of the sport in such a different way, and he's done a great job at it.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting over the next few years to see the players that transition into permanent media and what that's going to look like.
Yes.
So my question for Nate has nothing to do with disc golf. It has to do with something I know zero about, which is a lot, but beer. What is like the most recent beer trends? Like what are like right now, what is everybody talking about in beer? Because I know Terry, there's a ton of stuff I've never heard of. Even the stouts that Terry was saying, not only the manufacturers I have no clue about because I don't drink beer. But like what's the next hot thing? Like what are you looking at going like, oh, I'd love to try that?
Dude, it's fresh hop season though.
Yeah, well, around here right now, we are in the midst of fresh hop season, which is always a fun time in the Pacific Northwest. And if you're from the Pacific Northwest, you know what I'm talking about. But if you're from like Florida, there's not a lot of fresh hops down there, although they've been cryogenically freezing the hops and shipping them. So we might see a little bit more. But if we just look in the broader sense of craft beer, IPAs are still king. They're still at the top of the board, of which Terry doesn't like, but they are most breweries' bestseller. Trend-wise, we are seeing a big resurgence in light lagers. So, the big boys have been making these for generations, right? So, Budweiser, Coors, Miller Brewing Company, Rainier, Pabst Blue Ribbon, these types of beers, these light lagers, very light and crisp, low in alcohol. Those are making a big surge right now. There's always the draw for the extreme. So really high alcohol beers, kind of like what Terry goes after, barrel-aged imperial stouts, barrel-aged, strong ales, Scotch ales, things of that nature. Those are always in demand because they're just unique, and it's always like, well, is it an Elijah Craig barrel or is it a Pappy Van Winkle barrel? Things that people get excited about the barrel. I think those are always in demand. But, and this sounds weird, and I don't want to really get into it too much, but non-alcoholic beer has made a little bump into beer, into alcoholic beer.
It's a very trendy thing. The NA beers, like, we were talking right before the show how on Saturday night I went down to Chicago for a concert. I was sitting in the bar next to the concert hall waiting for doors to open, and I got myself just a rum and Coke, and there were 2 women and a gentleman next to me, looked like just a hair younger than me. Not millennial, not like just maybe in their upper 30s. And the 2 women stood up and they both were like, "We're going to see if they have any non-alcoholic beer here." And I was just kind of like, like, that's interesting. I wonder if that's a bigger trend, because I've heard about younger people going non-alcoholic, but someone that didn't look like they were of a trendy age. But then again, I was literally in Chicago, 2 blocks from Wrigley Field. So, I mean, it's a pretty hip and trendy area. So that's what made me think about, like, what are the trends in beer right now?
How popular are CBD beers and things of that nature? How much is that, especially out here in like the Pacific Northwest? Is that a full-blown separate category that is actively being pursued, or do people just continue to dip their toes in it?
Yeah, CBD is, it's non-psychoactive, so it doesn't necessarily affect your, although alcohol does, and we'll be very clear about that, but just in a different way. It's the mechanism in your body's different, but it's a small category. Certainly if you start to look towards the THC side of things, that is a very small category, because it's a kind of a gray area of, is that legal?
I was going to say
two intoxicants.
Sure.
But no, I think NA is very popular. One thing that people should understand about non-alcoholic beer is that non-alcoholic beer. So a lot of people have asked, "Hey, Nate, are you guys going to make one?" Well,
it's called water.
We're very small. Yeah. So without getting into like my personal feelings about NA, we're very small. NA nowadays is being brewed as a full, let's just say it's a non-alcoholic IPA. They're making it as a 6% IPA. Then they use a process to remove the alcohol. Then that product needs to be pasteurized, because as soon as the alcohol is pulled out of the product, it becomes food. It becomes something that is susceptible to bacteria, all kinds of things. So they have to pasteurize it, and then you buy it as a pasteurized product with no alcohol, or below what they say, I think is
0.05 or something, or 0.01.
Or is it 0.05? Something like that. There's a legal limit of what non-alcoholic beer is. So those are the trends. Overall, beer's doing okay. I would say there's some things happening, that might be pushing people away, a little bit away from beer, whether it's non-alcoholic or craft cocktails or mocktails even are a big thing nowadays. So, yeah, man, we'll see. Bevel's doing great. We love what we do. We love making beer. We're a community joint. We're all about supporting the local community here in Bend, and I love going to work every day.
And I'll say this, that for those that, some of you already know this if you follow along with my stories, Bevel is obviously, Bend, I think, has a very unique culture to it. Bevel makes your various beers. You have them on tap, and then when you go outside onto the patio, in which you oversee and you manage, you actually have 4 other food carts that are contracted and are leasing to be out there. And to me, that was very unique, because in Wisconsin, you go to either a bar and or restaurant. Most of your bars will serve like pizzas or some bar food, maybe.
Yeah.
Or you go to a full-blown restaurant that happens to also then serve alcohol. When you're in this region, at least, and I know there's other pockets around the country, it's just a very different atmosphere in that you go often, just like we did to the yacht, whatever the
Midtown
Yacht Club, which is not at all like a yacht club. You go there, but they serve alcohol, and they have a tap room, and then have a bunch of other beers, some on tap, some are other local establishments and breweries, and then it's this entire food cart pod, as they call it, where there's 2 or 4 or 6 other food trucks that are out there. So it's a totally different culture if you're not from here.
Yeah.
And don't experience this. The culture of all of going out in Wisconsin, for instance, is just vastly different than what it is when you're here. And I'm saying all this in case you didn't know, but I'm also saying it as like a challenge to explore and just see how different it really is. Because to go to I guess what would you call like Midtown Yacht Club?
It's a food truck pod.
Yeah, to go to that and know that there's really usually one place that's serving the beverages, but everybody else is serving the food.
The food, yeah.
It's just it provides a ton of variety.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's really unique though.
Yeah, and it's fun in the sense that you can go to one place, and let's move off this topic eventually, but because again we could talk literally all night about this. It's really nice from the sense that you can go with, say, let's just say it's 2 couples, a husband and wife, 2 couples, whatever it is. 4 people can have 4 different kinds of food.
Yeah. Entirely.
Hey, maybe I'm feeling a burger. You go get the burger. There's a Mexican Spanish food truck over here. Maybe I'm going to go get some tacos,
or pizzas,
and then there's a pizza joint.
Yep.
And actually, at Midtown, there was a sushi joint. So there's all kinds of things you can do. And a lot of the food truck pods do have cider. Some of them have hard alcohol. They have beer, of course, and wine. So we're trying to provide an experience for everybody.
Yeah.
Bevel just happens to be a food truck pod that is at a brewery. Some of them are just at tap houses, effectively.
Yeah. So it's really unique, and I know I try to share a ton of my experiences when I've been here throughout the last couple of years. Obviously, I've learned these different places, and then some that are your favorites. And then last point is you guys actually had a collaboration with Deschutes, and I say that because as I've come to learn in the last few years, most of the world that cares about craft beer and drinking, having these experiences, Deschutes is essentially a worldwide brand.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're the largest brewery in the state of Oregon.
And so, therefore, which meant nothing to me 5 years ago, and they have about one beverage I really like. That's besides the point, but it's a recognizable brand to most, and I think that's kind of my point. And because of the season that it's in, you guys had a really unique experience where, as you would explain, right? You go ahead and explain it. I know what it is.
Again, I could talk about this stuff all day. We brewed. Normal collaborations are 2 brewers or a group of brewers coming together and brewing a beer at usually a host brewery. So you pick one of the 2, you brew it there, you release it. It's kind of a marketing thing, but it's a lot of fun for the brewers. What we decided to do with Deschutes this year was during the fresh hop season, we both brewed beers at our own breweries. We brought fresh hops in a single day. And if you don't know what fresh hops are, they're hops that are an ingredient in beer, but as they're being harvested, whether it's in Oregon or Washington, we go get them from the source pre-being dried. So we have them wet, and you have to use them in 24 hours. So those hops came into town. Deschutes used them on the cold side of a beer that was already fermenting. We brewed them and used them on the hot side on an actual brew day, and then we released those beers together side by side. So it was a pretty cool project. Deschutes is amazing. They've been great to Bevel. They're super supportive of us here in this town. They are from Bend, but they are the largest brewery in the state of Oregon. So, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Opposite
direction.
Exactly. So I do give all breweries so much credit, and your wife included, along with you and others, so much credit in terms of all the clever plays on words and names. And now to our next sponsor.
This is Terry's favorite.
One
of them.
I love Founders. Founders, I know, has supported Gatekeeper, and I've yet to get this official hookup, but Founders is based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yep.
And many of you know that I always enjoyed the Dirty Bastard until I found Backwoods Bastard, which is just really the barrel-aged version of Dirty Bastard. And then they've now have French Toast Bastard, which we ain't effing around. This is also some good stuff. Yeah, I can get down with this. And I often, if I find unique items, I like to bring them, even though Nate is a professional brewer that owns his own brewery. It's fun to sometimes still bring.
We still drink beers.
Yeah,
of all kinds.
So, and just last point, I don't seek out. It's only by chance, or I guess not chance. It's only a coincidence that the beverages that I do enjoy the most happen to be 11, 12, 15%. Like, I don't go scouring around. I don't go scouring around the stores and be like, what has the highest content? It just happens to be the ones I do enjoy also are the most potent.
Boy,
and that's largely due to the barrel-aged processing,
This
right?
one tastes like French toast. It's hard to imagine barrel-aging a beer that's 5%. It just doesn't make any sense. You're putting it in a hard alcohol barrel.
Yeah.
You need big, bold flavors to stand up to the big boldness of hard alcohol, of whiskey. In a lot of ways. But other breweries are using tequila barrels, red wine, white wine, or not white wine,
whiskey,
red wine barrel, whiskey, bourbon, all kinds of stuff. So yeah.
All right. Well, cheers. That will
That's
end
the
our
beer side
talk.
of things.
That's the beer segment of our.
I'm always
after show.
down for a good beer conversation.
Yeah, I feel like that should be an entirely separate. How many different beer exclusive podcasts are there? Thousands.
Oh God,
there's got to be thousands.
Yeah. There's
Is there any that you listen to?
There's a Johnny V and Terry of
oh God,
of beer.
They just go on and on and get shit faced.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Oh yeah.
They should have me as a guest.
Guys, there's a million.
Imagine that.
Even Joe Rogan and his friends just get
That's
drunk.
true.
And he's the number one podcast in the world. Yes, there is. A lot of times I end up listening to some podcasts that have some really unique guests, like a head brewer of another brewery,
Okay.
where they're talking specifically about maybe IPAs or barrel-aged beers, something like that. Or, somebody influential in the industry is being interviewed. I like to listen to those. Yeah.
Let's flip. Let's go with another topic all three of us are familiar with, but put you on the hot seat. What's been the wildest thing you've experienced so far in the short 8 or 9 weeks since your son Luca has been here? What has been the wildest part of it so far?
Well, if you are a parent of a child, delivery it truly is amazing. It's amazing what the human body is capable of doing, and that a human being is that's how human beings are born, and that's how we've all come about. And it literally.
It's wild.
No. But you drive down the street and you think, there's all these people, and you think
that came out of somebody's.
That's how that happened.
Yes, we all came from a mother somewhere, didn't we?
It's given me a different respect for moms.
Yeah,
certainly my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're a big kid.
I got a big kid. Now, everything went great that day. Mm-hmm. Val and baby were all healthy and happy and everything like that. And all that being said, the craziest part is just seeing the daily growth.
Yeah, okay.
How much he grows. And he's not quite 8 weeks yet.
Yep. Sunday will be.
Sunday. Yeah, so the women's final round he'll be 8 weeks old. So, you can call it 2 months, but they don't, because it's not
they're very particular for another 6 to 12 months. And then you finally are like,
they're a year old.
Is it 13 and a half months or 14?
Yeah. No. So, feeding is just crazy. He's like going crazy right now, just wanting to eat all the time. It puts a lot of stress on Val and me, but more so Val, and Val and I are just the type of people that want to be the best parents that we can be and kind of figure everything out. But there's no figuring it out. It's just doing your best, trying to get in tune with him and feeling like where he's at. Is he uncomfortable? Is he hungry? Is he tired? Is he just frustrated because he is tired? Yeah, but it's amazing, man. I'm glad. I'm glad I waited this long. Could it have happened earlier? Sure. But Val and I are just in a great place right now in our lives where we can be very committed to him and be committed to this process and are, being a part of it. So
yeah, I mean, and which is awesome to hear. I think back, rewind 2 years, you're in the midst of opening Bevel, and you guys haven't been established. You haven't
5 years.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Haven't expanded.
The long opening.
4 years ago, but haven't fully expanded the way you have. Haven't gotten everything as dialed in as you are right now. And then again, you would learn to make do. Everybody makes these adjustments.
Yeah.
But yes, to know that there's so much that's going on, and that you guys are in the right place for it.
Steve Brinster and Leslie Brinster, the Brinster family, they did get Luca his PDGA number.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool. It was something that kind of like slipped my mind, and then Avery asked me, and I said, no, I haven't got it yet. And then boom, like the next day, they sent us a picture of his name on the PDGA website.
I'm a big fan of that. It's usually a role I love to play. And then I just, for almost exactly as you're saying, I had assumed like that was taken care of.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny when you think about, obviously where we all come from and then our relationships, makes perfect sense. Yeah, and then I had a funny conversation with Val earlier. Johnny, you and I can both attest to this. We've both had two. You have one. As I was talking with Val earlier, just think of all you incredible people that have like 4 or 5 or whatever,
and like that are like functional.
My aunt had 5. My aunt had 5 kids. All she wanted was a girl. She got 5 boys. Just Jason, Marvin, Leon, Danny, Timmy. Like just all she
Ricky
wanted was a
Bobby,
girl. She just kept. She was like, "I'm done after 5." Those kids are they destroyed the house. Like just, and they were all.
I'd rather
within,
have 5 boys than 5 girls.
Yeah, they were all within like 2 years of each other. It was just constant, But
wow,
yeah,
it's Yep.
Nonetheless, you're on your way. 2 months in.
I'm on my way, man.
2 months in.
Yeah, and I will say, and I think everybody already assumes this, Val is a tremendous mother, and she's been amazing. It's a lot. It's a lot. What the experience of the mom and the dad are so different. Mm-hmm. But you both look at your child, and you're just in love with them. But it's just a different experience for both, and we're both doing great. There's moments of exhaustion. I'll leave this podcast and go to bed. My bed's only like 20 feet away from here, and I'll wake up an hour from now and help feed them and change a diaper. And I haven't slept for more than 3 hours at a time in 8 weeks.
There you go. That sounds like fresh dad talk.
Yeah, you're not even to the point where like you're having like big like diaper blowouts and like
not yet.
No,
not yet.
Oh, just wait. That's the worst. Like when they get to be when they're like, a couple months old, like 6 to 9 months, and you're driving, like they're in their car seat, and suddenly you're like
all bundled up,
and you're like, what's? Oh. And you look back, and like you literally take them up, and you see it on the back of their neck, and you're like, "Wow, kid, how did you do that?" Like, yeah, like how did you manage that? Like, and then you just throw away outfits. It's great. Like there's
you just throw away clothes.
It's
I get to that point sometimes.
I literally recall driving from up north, driving down and Terry and some of the locals on 43 through Sheboygan and doing that, and we pulled off in the middle of a snowstorm, and we had a hatchback, and we just opened it up, and we were like, oh my God. And we just took the whole outfit and just tossed it in the trash. Buttoned him back up, put him back in his seat, and drove the rest of the way home. You just
wow.
It's just there's nightmares.
Yeah, I mean he's already going through clothes just getting big.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll outgrow them so fast.
In the last 11 days, he's gained 20 ounces.
Yep. Have you been peed on yet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like
oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny because the first time it happened, I was feeding him with a bottle at like 2 a.m. And like Val's trying to sleep or whatever, and I'm just trying to feed him, kind of coach him back to sleep. And I'm feeding him, and he's kind of sitting on my stomach, and it just starts to get warm. And I'm like, I go,
oh, this isn't college.
I think he just peed on me.
Yeah.
And then of course he's got the big splash.
Yeah. All the good stuffs, all the good things going on.
Yeah,
out there.
life is good.
If
awesome.
you wanted to possibly switch out your disc golf bag to make it a diaper bag, the Pure bag is the bag for you.
Oh, Terry.
Pure video.
No, in all seriousness, super quick. I just want to announce only earlier today, I did have I finally got around to getting out my review/introduction. I like calling it an introduction because I don't know if I'm fully qualified for a review on it. I did use it for an entire tournament weekend in Estonia. But the guys over at Pure, Reiner and the crew offered up the bag. They said I could use it. I didn't have any other obligations or whatever, but I did want to break it down, and that was released on my site. It feels so weird.
On your YouTube channel?
On my YouTube channel. I clearly, and Johnny's known this forever, my channel isn't focused on like product reviews. I never do a disc release or a disc review to talk about how it flies. That's just not really been my style. And this bag isn't meant to be 100% comprehensive, breakdown and rigidity test or anything crazy. But I'm just kind of giving you some of the basics to it. And I know we've seen a few of our pros use them out there as well. It's cool that it's, got some recycled materials in it. It's made right in Tallinn, and I visited Estonia. I try to pronounce Kristen's name right. Like, it all ties together in some way. So that is out there and on my channel. And I assume if you're watching right now, you maybe even already saw it because you're hopefully you bleed over into the Disc Golf Guide channel in some capacity. So I just wanted to throw it out there and let everybody know that it's out there. But it is a very versatile bag. Like, if you saw it, you would consider emptying it from discs and then use it for traveling and use it for a kid bag. It's just the compartments and everything else, the way they break it down, and the fact that it holds a laptop. It's actually pretty cool. So
yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, somebody's asking about Barbasol, good baby soap. I don't know about that, but we are really thankful. I don't know to what degree Barbasol is on board, but the fact they're on board in any capacity, that they're coming back from last year, I think speaks volumes. The fact that we just saw at Worlds, a massive 6-figure contribution that came in from LL Bean. The fact that we have people like the Halal guys and the carts and the stores that they have that are not necessarily even near where most of our big tournaments are held, I think that speaks volumes about where disc golf is heading, and it's awesome to have them back.
When you really look at corporate sponsorship of any individual sport, it's people that, yes, they see the financial gain potential of the advertising, of connecting themselves with, say, the PGA Tour or the USTA or the WTA, things of that nature. I'm just, talking individual sports here. Mm-hmm. You could go to team sports with the NFL, and which is, a $1 trillion company, but it's these companies enjoy that game. And I think that's pretty cool when you think that somebody at Barbasol who has the ability to make that decision is enjoying our game enough to want to support it. LL Bean, just the same. Yeah. Halal guys. Of course, all the disc companies that are a part of it. It's just cool how, we've come together and at least we see the value in putting some effort into it, advertising in a way that is not just Discraft or Innova or some manufacturer just giving the money because that's
they're
the
endemic,
de facto
they're already
one.
part of, yeah,
and we've seen that forever.
Sure.
We're always thankful for what they've done, and that's across the board. Because you even think in golf, well, who are the biggest sponsors? Callaway, Titleist.
Yeah.
They're all but you also get, the FedExes of the world.
yeah.
So I am so thankful for any of the sponsors we get, whether it's Barbasol, we had Johnsonville Brats, we had
LL Bean.
LL Bean.
Yeah, all of them that continue to come in. Canna, who's clearly
Canna Current Conditions.
Not necessarily, part
That's how
of,
I think of it. Yeah.
So the board wants to know what does your hat say? What do you?
Oh, this says DJ Mackle. This is a good buddy of mine. I decided to wear it tonight just to represent for DJ Mackle. He's a buddy out of California. He actually travels with Revolution on their tours, and it's kind of a cool thing because you'll have the band that opens up. Like, it's always like 3 or 4 bands. They'll kind of play, and then the band that's right before Revolution, who's going to close the show, while they're kind of getting the stage all set up, Mackle will go out and kind of DJ and kind of keep the crowd kind of going, and then they'll play their set. So great dude. I just saw him a couple of weeks ago. They played their final show of their tour here in Bend, and he gave me – I had this hat before, but it was just getting dirty and old. And he came and he's like, dude, you gotta have a new hat.
Nice.
So he gave it to me. And if you haven't heard of DJ Mackle, well, now you have.
Okay, DJ Mackle, and as you were just alluding to, for anyone that is a fan of Revolution, not only does Wes, he plays a ton. He was at
sponsored by Innova.
Yep, and it was at the
throws minis out after their shows.
Yeah, and also was at the celebrity thing at Ben's house for both years. So you may have seen or recognize him. Wes is also a very good friend of you and Val. Yeah. I'm honored to say I know him largely through these guys, but I've then spent time with him. But yeah, Revolution and Wes. Now, does the whole band go out and play, or is it largely him?
Well, Wes is like the avid player, but he'll get a lot of the guys on tour, like when they're playing on tour. Some of the other bands that are on tour with them, some of the other band members. I mean, I've played disc golf with Wes, of course, and Eric, the lead singer, a couple of different times. So they're great people. Their music's amazing. I've always been a fan of their music. Wes and I were always kind of parallel to each other, and then one time we got introduced to each other like 10 years ago, and we've been friends ever since. So,
and you would think that I might be able to skirt in there and steal that friendship because him and I have a barrel-aged affection like
he loves
him and I line up. You're the hoppy outsider.
Yeah.
The IPA outsider.
Oh, I'm a big outsider. Yeah.
And me and him. No, but yes, we love Wes, and he often leaves behind and or shares beverages that are a little more my speed as well, which is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Does he dislike IPAs and
Not
hoppy
at all.
stuff?
No,
okay.
He loves IPAs.
Okay, so he's like you. He'll get into anything.
Oh, he'll get into anything.
And I'm just a little specific whiny bitch, and only go with the double barrel aged IP or a double barrel aged.
You said it, not me, T-Dog.
Stouts. All right.
Anything else? I got about one more in.
No, I was just going to say Dust is out there. Hello, Dust. Hope you're doing well. Looking forward to working with you. Dustin Moray will be working the Tournament Central this weekend, I believe.
Oh, nice.
So good luck to you out there, Dustin.
With Brian.
I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah, because Brian's doing on course this weekend.
Yes. So good luck to you, Dust. Johnny, you got anything else before both of us cut off? I just got more registrations.
They're rolling in, Terry.
Up.
They're rolling in.
They are.
Roll that Zuka replay,
Yeah,
Terry.
we are. They're going to just keep on rolling in. Again, I've literally hit already the number I was hoping as a bare minimum for people to show up. So, and I think they'll keep
one refund
coming.
Request as well.
Ah, shoot!
I
didn't see that. Nope.
He's out of here.
Nope. Sorry. No refunds after 10 p.m. the night before. No refunds after 2 beers. That should be the new rule.
Oh boy.
All right, Johnny. Do you want to do double giveaways next week when I'm?
Yeah, we'll
back?
do double giveaways next week.
Okay. You got anything else that we need to know, Johnny?
I don't think
You're
so.
not working this weekend.
I am not working this weekend.
part of the show?
My next event is USDGC. That'll be my last of the season.
Are you doing the throw pink side or the USCGC side?
I'm not 100. I'm scheduled for the USCGC side, but last for Worlds because our other director is a West Coaster. He asked that I take the morning because otherwise he's got to get up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. So I'm expecting a phone call at some point. I know, Terry, it's so rough that he's going to ask if I can do throw pink. He loves to cover. He loves to do FPO. It's his. He enjoys it quite a bit. He likes watching the competitors. He's very much into FPO field, but he's also very much into his sleep. So.
Yeah, nobody likes getting up at.
Nobody does. It makes it a little bit tougher.
I'll throw this out to you, Johnny, because you are what is considered the director.
Yep.
Right? You're the one picking the cameras. You're effectively live editing the show. Mm-hmm. Has it become more difficult or easier the more cameras that we add? Like, how does that? And then when you add in all the replay, like how does your just, in your opinion, like, how's that all working out?
I think it's easier now than it was 2 years ago, and that's because of the number of people. It's way more complicated because we have so many other people, and we have, as I kind of say, 2.5 replay people. We've got, 1.5 replay people in that you've got like the regular, in 2.5 depending on the event. Like for these Worlds, USDGC, any event where they have a dedicated like feature hole broadcast, that also doubles as a replay for us. So all those shots that they're seeing, they'll see them a couple minutes. So like you may have Gary working that broadcast. He'll chime in Mo's ear, who's the producer, and say, "Hey, I've got a really great shot from Kristen Tatar," even though she's probably on feature card, but we'll just say from Paige Shue on hole 17, she just drained a 50-footer, whatever. And so Mo will decide then, okay, do I want to show that? Can I tie that into a story somehow? Like, oh yeah, Paige Shue won Worlds at this event, whatever. And then we've got our regular replay guy, we'll just say Marky, who's been doing it a lot. And then you've got Mo as well, who's doing replay on the director PC. He kind of does a lot of the instant replays, and we will all work together. But because we have so many people now, it's actually a little bit easier than it was even 2 to 3 years ago when we had one guy who was trying to do replays and graphics and audio, and like there's
right.
My control deck has kind of slimmed down a little bit. It's just now we have so many more, like, oh, which stinger am I going to use? Which,
gotcha.
Is it going to be the replay stinger? Is it the Zucker stinger? Is it just the Paul Macbeth shadow stinger? Is it, and we have a different one for each thing. So it's more just remembering, what are we going to, what do I need to do to go there? But with all the cameras, honestly, I rarely take, we've got 7 cameras. My job is primarily focused on the lead card. Unless something crazy, like if someone's going off on the chase card.
Like Matteo's going off.
Where then that kind of becomes your primary card. Like, and then you let the replay guy. Yeah, you let the replay guy take care of the quote unquote lead card then, and you're focused more on that chase card. But it's honestly become a little bit easier, I feel.
Nice.
But we're getting to the point where I don't know how many more cameras we can have. A lot of people, it's really funny because you see on the internets, people say, oh, God, I want to see more shots. I want to see more shots. And all I keep thinking is, for you guys, for us, how do we show more shots? Because at this point, we're getting to a point where we're almost saturated with the number of shots and commercials and storylines that we can show. Where do we really need to see more? Like, it's always cool to see like a 90-foot throw-in. Okay, great. And you might get that on the 5th card. On a hole that's not a feature hole. Would we show it? Of course. But I just think like the stories are on the top 3 cards. Always.
100%. 100%. Now, let's just say the top 3 cards are 12 people, right? Because they're in foursomes. So if you think about golf, everybody's like, whoa, God, they cover so many groups. They're playing in twosomes. So that's actually 6 cards.
Yeah.
So now, and that's every 20 minutes or every 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever the tee times are. Now that's an hour. You very rarely in golf see outside an hour unless it's a big putt because they have static cameras on all the greens. Yep. You're very rarely, unless somebody is a huge factor from, say, the 10th card, which now is only 20 people.
Yeah.
Because it's only 2 people. So that's the one thing that people got to remember. We are still seeing a ton of shots, like a ton. And first round and a weird round where we have a bunch of people stacked up, we're seeing third card shots.
Yeah.
And now that we got featured card stuff, we're seeing that too. So I do agree with you, Johnny, in the sense that at the end of the day, our job as the live team is to cover the story of the person who is going to win the tournament. That's ultimately the goal.
Yeah.
And
but this guy in 70th place has got 4 birdies in a row. Why isn't there a camera on him?
We you know what? And we mention all that. If somebody goes off, if somebody, say Matteo was on the 10th card, like playing like crap, but he birdied the last 7 out of the last 8, we would have showed his card.
Yeah.
We would have shown him finishing up 18.
But it's not realistic to go. Yeah.
Even
exactly.
in professional golf, they're not running cameras across the course to cover groups that aren't involved in winning the tournament.
Yeah. And I get
I know, and
I get everybody wanting cameras on every hole so we don't miss any awesome shots. You know, the fact that we didn't get to see the Nico ace or whatever. You know, it's like, all right.
That sucks.
It sucks. It does. And maybe there's cell phone footage that someone can upload and then we get it and we show it. I understand all of that. All I think is that from a director perspective, it's for every hole you add, you almost have to add another replay person. And so then you've got someone that's monitoring. Cool. We've got Mo, who basically does replay, we'll just say, on the lead card. Marky, who does replay on the chase card. And then sometimes they'll mix up, when we have a roaming camera, who does the replay on that. Gary's doing replay on the feature holes. If you add another card, you know, there's only so many cameras you can watch as a person. You guys know that from just watching sometimes you guys have the multi-view, sometimes you just have program, whatever you're getting. Like, there's only so much you can physically be forced to watch without missing things. It's easier and it's getting more complex, but it's great. Now we got an audio guy. In the morning, we turn on all the cameras. We've got like one guy who stands in front of the cameras with a phone like this and just puts it in front of the audio, and we watch our levels, and he levels out every camera. This one's a little low, this one's a little high. Every single morning, they call it FACS. I don't know what it stands for, but they do that every morning. I had to do it for the first time at Worlds, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. I've never done this. So they're just like, I just boot up the cameras and let me hear the cameras. I'm like, okay,
Carfax.
yeah. And so he does that. He picks the music. He picks everything audio related. If the crowd goes nuts on a shot, he manually pulls down the audio on that. It's, you know, we've got a graphics guy who will just pull up any graphic and have it ready. Mo might tell somebody, like you say, you guys mention, oh, you know, Matteo is on a tear. He's got 5 in a row. And right away, Mo will be like, let's get that guy's card ready so we can hit him for the next birdie. When it comes up, we can show it and then to follow up on that particular thing. You know, we've got a drone. Yeah. We've got a guy who just does, not a guy. There's a bunch of guys who do drone now. I think there's 3 or maybe 3 of them. I'm not sure exactly who they're
at least.
Like pilots.
Yeah, drone pilots. And they sit around and they get the drone up in the air. They bring it to where it's got to go. They fly it around. Sometimes they take live shots. A lot of times you just use it for scenics. And then when the battery runs low, he flies it back, swaps it out, flies it there. And they just have these constant, you know, batteries being charged and drone stuff going on. And it's really nutty how far it's come. And I'm really happy with it. Terry knows more than anything, being on the ground, all the work that those guys put in. It's
crazy. I think back to a few weeks ago, somebody said something about, well, the DGPT's got to be thinking about like cameras on every hole, right? And I just very quickly, and I'm not going to go through it all, but very quickly did the high level math of like adding a cameraman at the tee, a cameraman at the pin, plus, like you said, an extra replay operator. Then that's not even assuming you have a React person. Then so you're probably talking about actually 3 cameras on every hole minimum, assuming that they can follow the hole, and it's whether it's par 3 or par 4. Then like I said, then you're talking about control rooms. You're talking about the cameras. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars every weekend being added to the cost, all to sometimes never even show a particular shot or shots from any given hole. And I'm not saying it's never been thought about or we'll never get there, but as we're all kind of alluding to, like, we're continuing to build. Things are not perfect. Nobody will claim that they are, but they're continuing, of course, to get better and to enhance week after week. So it's insane. But to think about the numbers and the cost to have people covering literally every hole, whether they're just static and there's 54 people on the course just covering each of 3 sets covering each hole. Like the cost of that, because somebody said, yeah, they should just get extra people out there for Worlds or whatever it was. And I was like, no idea.
we did.
Well, I know we did. I know, and that's what my point was. We did, but you have no idea when you're talking about adding 3 to 4 people for literally every single hole between cameras and then producers. And then, like you said, there's not sometimes even enough hours in the day to show the footage. Even if you did get a park job from the guy in 87th place, might just have to be a park job that goes down as just that and never gets shown to the world.
It'll be on UDisc.
So anyway,
I mean, and I was going to say there's a fine line to how you want to progress. Do you want to debut something, and I'm going to eat it from some of the people probably listening, and have it be mediocre? Like, would you put one camera, a catch cam, on every hole and not a throw cam? Then is that something you'd want, or would you want a throw cam on every hole and not a catch cam? Where is the more exciting? Or do you have to debut, if like, cool, we're not going to do that, we're going to put, because the thought is, hey, let's put these little PTZ cameras on every basket. Imagine not having a number plate and just having a little cage with a PTZ camera in it. That'd be cool and all, but I mean, at some point you have issues.
To some degree.
Yeah, Then you need someone to control the PTZ, because obviously you got 360 degrees you need to go around and protect the camera, because some guy's going to throw and hit the camera. So you got to have some sort of cage around it. And if you've got a cage around it, you might have bars in your way of your camera stuff.
Then that's going to ricochet the wrong way, and then we're just going to blame the rollaway on the fact that there was a camera on top.
That there was a camera on top.
This sport should be all about the play and not about the media. Yeah, we could go on and on for hours.
Exactly. So there's a lot that goes into it. And Justin Ramsey on the board was asking about things like, technical glitches and audio glitches, and a lot of that is like at Maple Hill, cell signal. We saw that with Brian Earhart between 1 and 2 when he would try to do an interview and it cut out a few times. That could be cell signal. That could just be the equipment being cables. It's the end of the season and all that stuff is starting to break down. Mm-hmm. Like they're literally running out of XLR cables where they need to order more and whatnot because they've just burned through so many of them. And you kind of don't want to like put a big purchase in now. You want to wait till the off season. So you're trying to maybe get by on equipment that you would normally replace, but it's a lot. There's a lot that goes on, man. I loved, if you watch to the very end of Worlds, like the very, very end, they did it was like maybe a 3 or 4 minute highlight reel of just the guys on the ground. And
behind the scenes,
a little behind the scenes
media
thing
crew
of the media crew, and all the work that they do, and it's I cannot give them props enough to think of where this has come from. When when we hired 2 or 3 Yahoo friends of ours to go cover DDO and walk around,
it's been a long time coming, and I'm gonna start to wrap it up. Aaron Smith says, "Tell Nate I'm a huge fan and really miss watching him play. He should be the 4th in the Climo Schultz Schustrick match at USDGC." Well,
do they know who the 4th is?
I bet you it's Barry.
Yeah, maybe.
It'd be Climo Schultz Schustrick.
Oh yeah. So I bet
who's the
Schultz.
4th?
Oh, Schultz.
Silas Schultz.
I
don't know off the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
But
I was thinking,
Felberg,
like
maybe
a Sexton or a Felberg. La Castro?
Yeah, is it a current versus...
Or is it just the guys that aren't playing?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just
Or
thinking.
are those guys playing? Is like Barry going to play?
Climo's not. Schultz has
No.
been injured most for the last few months and is working his way back out of it.
That would
I'm
be
not
cool
sure.
to see, though. That would be cool
I'm
to
not
see.
sure. Somebody do some research and post it to the internets. All right, we're going to close it out. Somebody's got baby feeding to do. I'm talking about him feeding me. It's
Well,
gonna be
thanks
weird.
again, guys. Really, seriously, appreciate everything you do, Johnny. You, Terry, of course. I get to see you in person plenty. And
More than you bargained for.
I like when you come.
All
to town.
right. Well,
But,
we appreciate it.
yeah, it's good luck with the rest of the season, and we'll see you when we see you.
All right, guys. That has been SmashBoxxTV Podcast 472.
And I want to thank the 113 people
still watching.
that are still with
Still
us.
here, yeah. That's a normal night for us.
Yeah,
So
sorry
and
for the off night.
the thousands
We could
that
have went
will,
at least 2 to 3 more
no,
hours.
no. And the thousands that have downloaded and have come along for the ride. We appreciate all of you guys. We'll have extra giveaways next week for our Patreon giveaways. Thank you guys so much for supporting us in any capacity. For Johnny V, 3-time world champ Nate Doss, I'm the Disc Golf Guy, and we'll see you. We'll see you this weekend for the U.S. Women's. I know you'll be tuned in. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smash Box.